that we have the whole thing recorded. By the way, I have managed to upload all the videos that we now have. So I will post again the link to the channel, so you can see
Okay,
that. Now, keep in mind, a lot of our videos are like 3 hours
okay,
or a couple even more.
okay,
We do aim at 2 hours, but I think we've only achieved that once in the last year.
okay,
But
sir.
that's because so much of what we do really depends on you guys. If you're interested and you want to keep talking about it, I'm not going to cut it off. Well, at some point here, my wife's gonna grab me. She'll probably try to grab me by the hair, but she'll fail at
I saw her last week. I saw her last week when she opened the door.
that. So, uh, at any rate, here, the we have a very interesting topic this week. Last week we started a discussion. Well, you know what? Uh, okay, 2 minutes more and I'll officially start the meeting. So why don't you just continue your chatter here for another 2 minutes? And then we will kick this off, and then we'll talk a little bit about the agenda here because I think you're going to find it very interesting. Go ahead.
Well, I'll just add a few things, Sarah. I I live in Minnesota. I grew up in
Okay.
Canada, and
Wow,
I have three daughters in different parts of the U.S. But
wow.
the main thing that technology allows us to do is to connect from anywhere, anytime,
Yes,
with
yes,
almost anyone,
Mhm.
and
yes,
that democratization and access to anybody's wisdom is
yes,
really
yes.
opportunity. So I just want to add two other things. Last 2 days, there were webinars by the Digital Economist, which is a group that started out of the World Economic Forum. And one of the topics they went into deeply was AI education. So I think it would be very helpful with Bill's guidance to integrate or welcome some of the members from the Digital Economist group to our group here.
Mhm.
They're also quite excited about space uh, education. So, how do we build a space force and a space economy that also can not just be entertainment and risk, but really help reverse engineer things into health and education strategies? And they were really curious, how do we engage people beyond the training for SpaceX or something like that to actually use those technologies for remote and austere environments within planet Earth and understand planetary health. So I think those two topics were really exciting. And then at Mayo, we had a Vibe Summit, it was called, and that showcased how all sorts of solutions are being used for AI in healthcare
Mhm.
around our a global organization. So yeah,
Good. Awesome.
just exciting things. The big question is how do we engage the youth rather than the just the seniors leaders in shaping the change? And I
Especially
think
here, given how many parts of the world are trying to ban youth access to
right.
technology. Very misguided. They look at one kind of use case and they say that's bad, so let's block it, and not really thinking it through of what does that mean of a child if you're in a country that says you have to be 17 years old before you're allowed to access social media or basically the internet. And what does that mean for somebody not necessarily going to go to a university that might be graduating from high school at age 17 and they're coming out without any of the modern skills that anybody is going to look for. Anyway,
Yeah.
let me get started here. Ding. I'm Bill Graham. I'm the president of the Rotary Dare to Be Great Global eClub. the go-to place for those who are crazy enough to think they can change the world, the whole world, and daring enough to try. This is the 13th of December, 2025, and I declare this meeting to be open. Uh,
Amen.
the topic, and I would like to welcome, I see we have here members from four continents on the call already, and hopefully a few more will be joining us as we go through. But I started the recording today at the
That's
beginning,
good.
so we anybody who's not able to attend will be able to watch that recording. Um, the
Okay, sir.
topic, what was that, Sarah?
I say thank you, sir. I
Oh,
say
okay.
okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Today, last week, we wanted to discuss some new things about education. And Ashok mentioned here, the digital economists, that they had a session here just recently on AI and education. I'd be very interested to know, were they talking about how to provide education about AI or how to leverage AI for education generically or in general? Ashok, maybe you could.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So Navroop Sandev was the founder of Digital Economist. She and the team led moderated very good sessions. The one specific to education had straddled four areas. One was economic incentives and guardrails that have to be put up with tokenizing education and what does it mean to invest in education. The second was the exactly what you were saying, Bill, about audience. We have to actually engage all levels of learners, and that means upskilling the active workforce. That means engaging younger learners at an earlier age in AI. Both, they said the curriculum has to be not just the content that has to be organized, searchable, and quality, but also the encouragement of asking the questions. And the teachers have to be okay with not knowing all the answers, but just to encourage inquiry. And it's sort of a Jesuit mindset, like question everything, including how we do this. The third aspect that I really was intrigued with was context, and there were three contexts that I was specifically um, curious about. One was how are we going to educate on health, both preventive health, complex health care, and then the rare and genetic disorders. So those three areas are certainly prime at Mayo Clinic, but also around the world. How do we educate for motivating people to do healthy behaviors and then access the quality expertise that they need, which could be in the form of a robot or a scribe or all the tools you talked about earlier. The second area that I was really happy about was how we use the concept of gaming. And maybe we can separate gamification and gaming for peace gaming versus um, preparing for war and a- catastrophic risk mitigation. And then the last context was space, and with the upcoming considerations and lots of investors in space economy and space expo. They were really hyped about that. There's a lady, her name is Lady Rocket, and she was really a marketer. She was really good at not only knowing the rich people, but also restoring the enthusiasm of curiosity about space exploration. And talked about partnering with Formula One to show how we can train these high risk teams and then do cinematics and use the Hollywood approach to generating excitement. And so, yeah, those were some takeaways from digital economists. Those are also all recorded and on YouTube and available. And they did this as a prep for the World Economic Forum in Davos to be held in mid-January.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things here from what you just described that seems to me to be a trend. We know last month we had the Second World Summit on Social Development held in Doha, Qatar, and they were talking about reaffirming the UN's dedication to closing gaps, decreasing inequalities, if you would, in the world. And they took out of the 1995 first summit that was held in Copenhagen the theme good work for everyone, good jobs for everyone as a theme, because when we think about it, we had the Millennium Development Goals from 2000 to 2015. Now we're in the Sustainable Development Goals, but the word that keeps repeating is development. And that is because coming out of the 1990s was the idea that development is what is needed everywhere to create jobs, which will give income, and that's what's going to reduce the inequalities. But what we are increasingly seeing is the idea that there are not going to be jobs for most people. And we have to be very careful because the World Economic Forum, the International Monetary Fund, and so many others, they're talking about here that upskill, reskill, upskill. That's the solution. But it's like education in general. Why, especially when we look into higher education, why do people pursue higher education? That's to give themselves an advantage in the labor market for the most part. 80% of university students in the United States are there primarily to get a leg up for their careers. And so if there are fewer jobs, that just means the competition for the remaining jobs becomes more intense. Yes, people will seek to reskill and upskill to pursue what employers are looking for those few remaining jobs. But that's not solving the problem of providing jobs for everyone. It's providing the jobs for the most competitive. And when we look at it from a world situation, from a societal situation, and not the perspective of me, the individual trying to get ahead, but looking at it from a societal perspective, how do we build a sustainable society that's fair for everyone, that supports everyone? And we can't go and say, let's put all our investment into upskill and reskill. That's only going to increase the competition at the top end for those few remaining jobs. We have to figure out what are we going to do to make sure that everyone has an income that's going to enable them to survive. So that is, I think, is very important. We need, especially the World Economic Forum and bodies like that, to go and say, let's not keep hiding the discussion on whether or not the job AI and automation is going to take jobs. It's happening. We lost almost 1 million jobs so far this year. And many of those, the companies have explicitly stated it's because they're transitioning into more jobs, especially the entry level currently, being able to be done by AI. So this is something that's very important. The other thing here is why I'm very concerned about what others are talking about with regards to education is if education is not going to provide everyone with a meaningful job, we have to figure out what's the purpose of education. We probably should do that irrespective of the whole AI situation because Increasingly, knowledge, the shelf life of knowledge is becoming shorter and shorter. So the number one thing that, and it was brought out in the World Summit on Education at the UN, was it 2 years ago now, or maybe it was 3 years ago, 3 years ago, I think now. The idea here is that everybody needs to be a lifelong learner. That has to be a primary goal of education, is to prepare everybody to be a lifelong learner, an effective lifelong learner. And Whether that's learning something for your career or learning something just for your passion or whatever you're interested in. Uh, and so we really got to ask ourselves, is our education system currently set up to prepare people to be lifelong learners? Ashok mentioned here the idea of the questions, asking the questions. I think here we've really got to come up now, especially as we're looking at how do we interact with AI, realizing it's almost more important to have a question than it is to have an answer. The number one, I don't know if you want to call it a skill, or the number one trait that we need to promote among everybody in the world is curiosity, the desire to know, to want to know something, and then the confidence that you know how to find out what you want to know. Those need to be our two main thrusts, if you would. And then when it comes down to saying, okay, the curiosity and having the question, we have huge swaths of population around the world that don't have the question because they don't know even that the topic that question pertains to, they don't even know it exists. They're cut off from so much of what's going on in the world, or the detail of what's going on in the world. We have to realize that there is a significant percent of communities in this world that don't even have electricity. So we've got to be somebody has to be thinking about, okay, how do we provide people with the knowledge so that they even know what they can be curious about? This isn't going to just happen on its own. And we could take the position, well, if they don't, what they don't know won't hurt them. Of course, we know with things like climate control and diseases and a lot of other things here, that's just not true. What you don't know can really hurt you very bad. And then Ashok was mentioning here the idea of preventative medicine and so forth, or preventative behavior. Yes, if you don't know, you don't do it. And if you don't do it, you're increasing your risks. So, at any rate, when we look at education, we've got to take this holistic perspective to the world. When I go to Rotary conventions, what I like to do is go around and ask people. We do Rotary among all our clubs. We do about 1 million projects, or actually more than 1 million, I would estimate, projects per decade, about 100,000 a year. And I go and I ask people, what major world problems are closer to ultimate resolution due to all this activity by Rotary? The world's largest association of business and civic leaders in the world doing 1 million projects a decade. What do we got to show for it? Yes, we've helped a lot of people. We've helped a lot of people. But the problem is, next year, there's a whole new batch of people needing help because we didn't do anything about the problems that are causing the need. We're dealing with the consequences, okay, us and all the other NGOs out there, but who's focused strategically on the causes? And there's a saying, you can't hit what you don't aim for. And if we don't aim to solve the problems, why should we expect they're being solved? If the largest association of business and civic leaders isn't doing anything about it, who is? The governments? We know here the governments can be well intended. They can say, yes, they sign the agreements. Yeah, we commit to this goal, this sustainable development goal. But the problem is they've got to find a way to get their populations and their business and their economies to do it. Governments aren't the ones that do everything. They're the ones, they're the leaders, the point the directions, they can initiate things. So we need here as NGOs, for example, at the UN right now. Unfortunately, a lot of the NGOs at the UN are there because they want to lobby the UN to do the things they want. They're not there to say, okay, yeah, we got the goals. How do we help? And this is something that we need to do. So anyway, last week I brought up the fact that I've been noticing there's a trend going on. The United States is maybe a country we have a lot of what we call homeschooling. Parents who don't send their kids to school, they educate them at home. Almost 7% of all students in America are homeschooled. And increasingly, homeschooling, there's a whole myriad of products that are being made available to parents that want to homeschool their children. And the internet has and YouTube has really increased the possibilities there. But what's happened in the last few years is we've seen regular schools, a number of regular schools, especially in the private school sector, that they are leveraging AI to increase the quality of the results, the outcomes of their students. And one that's gotten tremendous attention is Alpha School. It began in Austin, Texas. They have a number of campuses right now. But by going and replacing all their human teachers with AI, they were able to reduce the academic day down to just 2 hours. And in those 2 hours a day, they have jumped into the top 1% of schools in the United States in terms of outcomes, in terms of the education that those students actually attain. So what's happened? They have now started to take their curriculum, their automated curriculum, and they're packaging it, and they're making it available to local organizations that want to start a local school. In many cases, they're religious or organizations or NGOs, local NGOs, or charter schools that are saying, "Hey, okay, we can just take this now and uh, our teachers can become mentor coaches or whatnot, but the education is going to be done by AI because it's much easier for us to measure the results and to personalize, to provide the personal education that each student needs. Because we know one of the weaknesses of our general education system is that if you've got a classroom of 25, 30 students who are all at various levels of proficiency in the subject being taught, as a teacher, what do you do? Do you just focus on the slowest students and then the students who are advanced are bored, silly, and not doing anything? Do you focus on the best and hope the rest catch up? Or do you focus on the middle? And you've got a bunch of bored students at the top and a bunch of students that can't follow and don't know what's going on at the bottom. So we've known for a long time, the best answer is very small student-teacher ratios and down ideally one-on-one. Okay. So we know that's a major problem. But we now know another major problem that we've got, and AI doesn't necessarily address that, is if our goal is to prepare people to become successful lifelong learners. To be a successful lifelong learner, you've got to be a successful independent learner. That means you've got to go and say, I have a goal to know something, either because the school says I have to know that, or because I'm curious to know that, or because I need to do something. I need to fix a faucet or my bicycle or whatever around my house, and I need to know how. So the regardless of what it is, we have to provide people that means to know how do I acquire some knowledge that I want or I need to have. And that has to be the focus. If I've got somebody there over my shoulder saying, oh, no, 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 don't do that. Go do this, do that. That becomes a crutch. I no longer have to go and figure out myself how do I find that material and learn that material because there's somebody standing here telling me. The teacher is telling me, do this, do it this way, don't do that. And so I don't have to take the initiative. I can just be a passive follower. So but that's a separate thing. Anyway, we know here that from that summit at the UN 3 years ago, that two out of every three 10-year-olds in the world cannot read effectively. Now, that's a 30% increase over pre-COVID times. We also know here that the recovery of COVID has been very unequal. And in fact, major areas in the world, including the United States, have not recovered from the education losses due to COVID. And so we have to ask, well, why is this so difficult? Why are so many people having difficulty? Many of you know that I was using the New Jersey in the United States to try to understand why in the United States do we have such tremendous outcome inequalities in education, where I found that there's a site called schooldigger.com that gathers up all the information from all the states on their education performance, every school. And so you can go there and see each school, what kind of students, what's the socioeconomic background, how many are classified as impoverished, what the student teacher ratio, how many students in a class. You can go and find out what their test scores are, all kinds of information. So I was able to use that and find that in primary schools, elementary schools, at the third and fourth grade, which seems to be a milestone. I had taken, after a couple of years of teaching at Purdue University, I decided that university was too late to make a significant difference in the US. So for 3 years, I traveled around the US speaking to teachers, educators, and students in Texas and Missouri and Georgia and the whole Northeast, north of Washington, D.C., trying to understand why we were not achieving what was the problems that we were having. At any rate, in trying to understand, recognizing that we have major problems, one of the things I found is in the bottom 10%, the top 10% of primary schools in New Jersey, that more than 90%, and almost all those students, more than 90% of fourth graders are at grade level. But if we go and look at the bottom 10% of schools based on the overall school results, we see that it's less than 10% of students at grade level, and in many cases, less than 6%. Now, when we overlay that on the whole performance of the United States, for the first time ever, I think it was this year, in the spring, we have a national assessment of the education in our schools. For the first time ever, they come out and they evaluate, for example, whether you are above proficient, whether you're proficient, that's grade level, if you're proficient, or above proficient, or that you are basic, which is not at grade level, but you understand the basic skills, or below basic. And for the first time ever, we passed 40% of fourth graders, 10-year-olds in the United States are below basic. They don't even understand the basic. They're not able to understand simple text. And so the question is, how can that be? Why? Every child in America, we have access, we have schools. Well, some people, the classic has been, oh, it's funding. Then, because our funding for schools is community-based in America, those schools that are not performing, it must be because of funding, or it's got to be the quality of the teachers. Well, the some of the things that we were able to do out of statistics was find out that the some of the worst performing schools in New Jersey spend 40% more per student than the best schools in New Jersey. So much for well, we don't have the funding in the poor performing schools. The second is based on my observation. I went and I saw the teachers. I spoke to the better part of 1,000 teachers during those 3 years when I was traveling around visiting schools. And one of the things that I found was, regardless of schools, the commitment and dedication of the teachers was amazing. In every school I went to, poor schools, wealthy schools, the burnout rate high, the frustration and burnout extremely high, especially in those weaker schools. But you can play a little bit of a mind game. Let's take a seventh grade math teacher, for example, and say to a seventh grade math teachers, will you commit to get 100% of your students to be at 100% grade level by the end of the year? Well, in the town where I live, where we have 96% of our graduates, high school graduates, go on to 4-year institutions. The answer is sure. Hey, that's what I do. But if I go into the capital of New Jersey, Trenton, or Camden, or any of 19 other communities in New Jersey, and I ask the seventh grade math teacher the same question, I'm likely to get, are you crazy? Yeah, that teacher in that wealthy community, they can do that because 90% of their students start the school year grade level ready. 90% of my students are 2, 3, or 4 years behind when they start seventh grade. It's unfair that you even ask me to be measured by the same yardstick as that teacher who starts off with such an advantage. And so we see the problem. Then if we ask them and say, well, what if I could guarantee you that all the students coming into your class next year will be grade level ready? That's proficient according to that national exam. Now we know that in those schools, almost no students are proficient, but we're saying, what if? The typical answer we can expect is, well, in that case, no problem. Then I pledge I'll get 100% of them to the next level. So that's just sort of anecdotal, but we actually have much more evidence. The state Supreme Court in New Jersey a number of years back went and as a result of the great inequality in the schools, they mandated that 19 of the worst school districts in New Jersey implement something called the Abbott preschool. That is making sure that all the students in those school districts go to 1 or 2 years of preschool prior to beginning kindergarten. They made sure they were well funded. They made sure they had the best teachers. So, and at the end of that time, when they started kindergarten, they had the same reading skills as children from wealthy communities. They had the same numeracy skills. They had those basics. And so everybody was clapping themselves on the back. Oh, wow, look, that's the answer. We did it. We just have to provide 1 or 2 years of custom tutoring or small size, and we get them up proficient in these basic skills. But then they found here that by the time these children were in third or fourth grade, the improvement that they had achieved in that 1 to 2 years of preschool basically disappeared. And people are saying, well, maybe it's those students just aren't capable of retaining the knowledge or being able to grow on top of that knowledge. Well, the when they went and explored it further, what they found was that the students who had not gone to the Abbott preschool, it's not that the students that went to the Abbott preschool forgot what they had learned, that what they had gained. But when they went into the school and there were students who, let's say, had not gone through that, the schools could not move them forward further. It had to worry about getting the basic fundamentals to all the other students. So what happened was the students that didn't go to the Abbott preschool, basically over that first 3 years of school, caught up to those basic skills that the Abbott preschool students had achieved. But obviously, the students that had gone to the wealthy schools where all the children started at that advanced stage, they continue to grow further. So as they looked into it further, what they found was, yes, you can take a student from a disadvantaged family and you can have them master decoding of reading so they can pronounce a word, they can read the word, they know the letters, they can read, and they can know how to do basic math. The problem, however, is that that child from that wealthy community, from the time they were just a few months old, was exposed to all kinds of general knowledge. And they found that its reading is more than decoding letters. In other words, they can teach that child to read, but if that child was never exposed to a lot of different information, they can pronounce the words, but they don't know what they mean. And this was proven in a study that was financed by Bloomberg in Providence, Rhode Island. I don't know what the other details, but they called it the 30 million word gap study. What they found was children from welfare and working class families, by the time they're 3 years old, have heard 30 million, up to 30 million fewer words than children from middle and upper middle class families. And those words that the children from the poorer family are often, don't do this, eat your dinner, leave your little sister alone. Uh, it mostly commands, instructions. They didn't have rich vocabulary. They weren't talking about things that were in the news. And they weren't being taken to museums and taken around to different places where they would just see stuff and learn stuff. So that's what made the difference. The context that children from working in welfare class families just don't have the exposure to know what those things are. So let's imagine here I'm in a developing country, a poor developing country, and I take some children from a remote community that have never been outside their remote community, and I take them to a modern city. And they're seeing all kinds of things they've never seen before. They didn't even know existed. So they
Mm.
would not, if somebody just gave them a book that talked about these things, they wouldn't know what those mean. So the education needs of young children go far beyond learning the mechanics of reading and the mechanics of numeracy. So this becomes the challenge on education. How do we provide that broad context so that when they hear the words, they understand it? Because one of the problems is when children from those welfare and working class families who have a very limited verbal vocabulary because they've never been exposed to these things, and we teach them, oh, you can pronounce this word, you can pronounce that word. If that child's from an upper middle class family, the odds are they pronounce the word, they know what the word means. They have a small percentage of the words they encounter that are new, and so they have to look them up. But if you're from that welfare and working class family, probably the majority of the words to you are new and you don't know what they mean. So when you get into testing around fourth grade, third or fourth grade, they're not just testing, can you decode letters? They're testing for comprehension. And you're going to fail that if you've never been exposed to all those things. So this is something that tells us what do we have to accomplish if we're going to close that education gap. We can't focus just on saying, okay, I'm going to teach you to decode to be able to read. I'm going to teach you to be able to do addition and subtraction. Because when you start getting into fourth grade and you get math tests, a lot of them are word problems. Yeah, they're telling you, hey, if this train is going at that speed and this train is going at this speed and they've got to go so many miles, if you don't understand the question, you're not going to be able to figure out the math that's needed to get the answer. Okay, so I see I'm talking too long here, and so we need to get other voices in here. But the idea here is we have to figure out how do we get this exposure. So when we talk about education in a box, we can't be talking about first grade going on. Yes, we can do that, but we have to talk about how do we help that child from age 6 months on have the exposure, that broad exposure to all the things that a child from a wealthy community or family is likely to be exposed to. And I'm going to come back in a minute because AI can do tremendous for us in this particular space. And we'll talk about that because this is one of the four pillars that we see that we can use to close the education gap totally. And we have to keep in mind we got to close it in the wealthy communities like the United States where access is available, but the socioeconomic background is making the difference versus the situation in developing countries, where a major part of the problem is the access to education, but also even if we go and provide access, and I know the chairperson of LitRag, now called BellRag in Rotary, uh, she was telling me about a project that she had been involved with in Uganda where they uh, built something like 20 something schools, but they came in from the outside, built the schools, turned them over to the local officials. But then when they went back years later, they found that we weren't being used as schools. They were being used as warehouses and everything else, but not schools because that community didn't fight for that availability, that function. Therefore, they didn't know how to value that and have their children striving to be better educated. That's one of the biggest challenges here. And Sarah, you might be able to speak to this about how do we get young people in developing countries who don't even know why, they don't understand it because they got no exposure to see that benefit. How do we get them to become strivers, to become people who are to fight for their education and really go to extreme lengths to get that education? Because if that's not happening, we can push all the education we want, but we need to get the population pulling for that education. So, comments, please, on what I've said so far. Yes, Sarah.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good, good.
And good afternoon, everybody. You see, we talk about United States. You have been talking about United States. United States is a place where I know them to be when they tell you one is one. That's integrity. You know, my husband do call America the integrity people. You understand? You see, like the last week you were talking about leaders, going to leaders. Sir, where you talk, that is where it ends. You understand? Like I just registered my NGO. You understand? The the other of our brother was talking about health, education, and talking about mass. I've forgotten the other topic by going to Hollywood and other things like that. You see, we're in a country where they don't value life. You understand? where you fed for yourself. I send you a picture of some children I was giving little thing that we have. You understand? On that WhatsApp. You see, these children, they are interested. They are interested. But the means to reach, to make them come together, that is what we don't have. You understand? And like their parents, most of their parents are happy to see their children learning. You understand, sir? Most of their parents are happy to see their children learning. You understand? But the truth is that they don't have means. We don't have means. You understand? I'm a pastor. My husband is a pastor. And in Nigeria, you see pastors that have big churches. They have money, they have school. You understand? You cannot even take the poor man children to their school because you can't pay the fee. You cannot pay the fee. There's what we call a private school in Nigeria. Private school is for the elite, for the rich. While the poor children still go to government school. And in a class, I will make a research when the school resumes by January. I will show you that. Some classes, you have 80 students. In a class, 80. In a government school, because the parent doesn't have money to take them to the private setup. School of about 600,000, school of about 500,000. Where will they get the money? School that is about almost $1,000. Is it somebody that have not eaten? So, like my NGO, David Blessed Cancer Foundation, you know, my son died of cancer. You understand? Due to poor information, due to poor average life, we could detect on time that it was stage 4 cancer, cancer of the lungs. I mean, kidney, spread to the lungs, spread to everywhere. And he died. Since then, I've been praying that God, I want to register NGO where I can go and create awareness. Education is power. Education is power. Sabil, if you are not educated, you won't bring us together like this. You understand? You know, if we want to focus on education in Nigeria, yes, there are children that go to the best school. There are a school of about $1,000, $2,000. You understand? But we can start in a community where we are by maybe leasing a place. The few children that want to come, like the other week, you said something that really goes into me. You said it's not the quantity of the children, but the few we can start with. You know, children, if you force children to say stop, they won't stop. But if you say stop, I have that wisdom and mentality. Some children, when they are crying, their parents say, you are crying. In Africa, you know, we bull our children. It's not like America. But when I come around, I carry them, put them in my body, they can trust me. You understand? So if we can focus on the poor children education, not only with teaching them, a child that have not eaten cannot focus on reading because it happens to me. You understand? If I will send my website to you, though we are still working, the CAC Nigeria registration has come out, the web is already out. We are working on the Scrumo. We have not been able to get the Scrumo, which by the grace of God, we want to get it. You understand? We have women empowerment program. We have Catch Them Young. Me and my husband, we call them Catch Them Young. You understand? From when they are small, we catch them young and make them to know what they are to do as they go up in life. You see, those children I was giving little donuts, little I don't know what you call it in America. Here we call it donut buns. You understand? Biscuits. You know, tomorrow when you talk to them, they want to hear you. You understand? Like the film Titanic. Jack did not ask for Rose's hand. He won her heart. After winning her heart, before he could get the hand of Rose and save her. So this is the method we can use in
Yeah,
my
yeah,
community. You
yeah.
understand?
One of the challenges, Sarah, is there was a girl from New Jersey, actually. She won the CNN Hero of the Year award back around 12 years ago, I think it was. When she graduated high school at age 18, she decided to take a gap year, a year off. And so she wanted to
Mm,
go around the world. She was an Interact student, and the Interact is the high school level
mm,
for Rotary.
mm,
She was in India, and then she ended up in Nepal. And in Nepal, she saw a girl who was working. She was being paid to take stones in a river and break them into small pieces for
mm.
construction companies would pay her for however many stones she broke. But she was like 6, 7 years old. And so
Mm.
this girl from the United States said, why aren't you in school learning? No, I have to earn money. I got to work. She adopted that girl. And um, Over the years, she adopted more and more and more children, and she paid for them. She wrote to her parents and say, "Take all the money that I put aside to spend for my university, and you send it to me." And she bought a house in Nepal, and in the end, she had adopted like 50 children.
Children.
So for that, she was named the CNN Hero of the Year award winner. Now, the problem here with that is to what degree did she change the percentage of children in Nepal that
Okay.
are not able to get an education, are not able to have a meaningful life? And she
Mm.
didn't. She didn't hear because her goal was, I want to help this child. And that's perfectly fine. But the problem
Yes.
is nobody came in to say we're going to do something about all the children in Nepal. And that's what we
Yes.
need. That's what we need.
You.
All right.
Yes.
We need to think, and I showed you guys here last week that plastic wristband, and some of you who have met me personally may have gotten one of those from me that says member of Vision Africa 2030 and SDGs now. And I have a quote for 50 million of those just for Africa. Okay. Because that's what we have to think. We have to think, what can we do that will impact 50 million children in Africa?
Children. Yes, sir.
If we don't plan for it, if we don't, there was a 14-year-old boy who was a youth member of our Rotary Club a number of years back. And because in the beginning I said, okay, the thing is, our club is crazy people. We're trying to make this difference. And like all Rotary clubs, we seek to be the greatest service to our community. But because our members are around the world, our community is the world. So that we seek to be the greatest service to the world. So what is that? The greatest service that we could be is to help protect our world
Mm.
from the severe and potentially existential consequences of all the problems facing the world. That means our
Mm.
club, we go on and say, our goal is to solve all the world's problems. Now, that
Yes.
should definitely qualify us to be crazy. But
Mm.
we think back of Steve Jobs of Apple. He
Yes.
used to go around
Big job.
saying, "Those who
Mm.
are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do."
Yeah.
Why? Why would he think that? It's because uh, only those who try, only those who believe that they can will even try, and only
Mm.
those who try have any chance to succeed. Okay.
Sorry. There is Godwin is with us on this program.
Mhm.
You understand? I don't know if he's online now. Is Godwin from Nigeria?
Yeah.
Yes. Uzo Godwin from Nigeria
Mhm.
is the one we mentor him from 14 years. You understand?
Right?
Yeah. You can check. Is he online now?
No, he's not online now.
Okay, last week he was online. Me and my husband, we have been mentoring him from 14 years. Now he's 30 something years. We have several. You understand?
Mhm.
We have several that we have mentored and we encourage, we empower them. We take them to school. Some of them are graduate today. You understand? Some of them is my partner now in this project. He's also an SDG member. You understand? Last week he was around. You understand? There was a time life was so difficult for him. He said he was going to commit suicide. You understand? The father died, the mother died, and left 5 brothers and sisters for him. You understand? But he said each time he wants to commit suicide, he will remember our word, me and my husband, and say there is a better hope. You can make it.
Mhm.
And that helped him. Today is somebody.
Right.
You understand?
But now the question here for us, though, the question is, how do we get 1 million or 10 million Godwins? How do we get here these and that same 14-year-old boy here that because when we looked here and we said, okay, our goal is to solve all the world's problems, and the we saw a quote from Michelangelo. Michelangelo had a quote saying, "The problem for most people is not that they aim too high and fail, but that they aim
Yeah.
too low and succeed." Okay,
Mm.
so
Yes.
the this young boy, 14 years old at the time, I think, said, "Okay, that means if we fail, let it not be because we didn't aim high enough."
And
So,
yes.
so it's all about the goals. It's all about the goals. It's about here. It is our goal to move the global needle on terms of making progress towards resolving these problems.
Yes,
We,
that
we
is
okay, so then we need to take a look and say, okay, who's the one tracking that? Who's the one recording that? It's the World Bank. So therefore, we should not engage in any project that we do not believe has the potential to move the World Bank statistics, right?
yes.
This is why
Mm.
we often say here, look, if your project's not going to impact, maybe not in stage one, but if it's not going to impact at least 10 million people, don't do it. Don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Look for a better project. Peter Diamandis, the author of Bold, the founder of the X Prizes and Singularity University, co-founder of Singularity University, he said that one of the things in his book Bold was there's a difference between people who are looking for different ways to get up the mountain, but then
Mm.
there's people who are looking for better mountains to climb.
To climb, yes, sir.
And so this is what us. I want to jump back into the education examples, but Sid,
Mm.
I'd like to go to you first.
Well, what you were saying about doing things only, that reminded me of a movie I saw, Vincent. I don't know if you saw that.
No.
Vincent, it was about Vincent van Gogh.
Mhm.
It was sort of a documentary where he writes letter to his brother Theo. Uh, in one of the letters, he says the progress, the real progress, does not come from normal people.
Mhm.
It comes from very eccentric. They are the one who takes a project and do things which are out of the ordinary. And so I agree with you that in order for us to do something, if you're crazy enough to think that you can make a change, then the change will happen. Otherwise, the normal people who get up in the morning, had breakfast, go to work, come home, eat dinner, go to bed, they don't make the real change.
Mhm.
Now, with respect to the problem you're trying to tackle, and it seems so a global problem, of millions and millions of kids and education and equality, it's a huge problem. And what you were talking about earlier about the curiosity, kids are born curious. You don't have to teach them how to be curious. It's just their curiosity is being squashed. As you said earlier, don't do this, don't do that, don't sit here, don't do that. That is a problem. Those happens mostly in uh, where, families which are uh, they don't have enough means, and they are. parents are undereducated to begin with, and they're working very hard, and they are very stressed. So, so what do we do? How do we help them?
Mhm.
Uh, one of the problem is I mean, 50, 60 years ago, one parent stayed home, mostly women, to take care of the family. Now everybody has to work, and the kids have to go to the daycare. So part of the solution is if we can have the world governments reduce their defense budget by 10%, not more, just 10%, all the problems will be resolved, most of them at least. So, but obviously, we will not be able to do that. Um, so AI obviously is going to solve some of the issues of education on one-on-one. I'm a big fan of homeschooling and one-on-one education, um, where I believe the first 7 years the kid has to spend with their family, like parents or grandparents, and get a lot of love and support. And then, of course, at that time, you also have the tablet and you're learning things, being curious and just exploring. And then while you're exploring, you learn stuff you like math and reading. So those are some of the things we can do.
Yes, one of the problems in the United States here, oh, maybe about 10, 15 years ago, there was some woman, I think she was a congresswoman, who came out and said that basically the children of the United States belong to the society. It's not just you. Because we know a lot of children don't have the home environment. The family's not able to provide them with that. We know the percentage of single parent households, especially among the welfare and working class families, is very high. In fact, some communities, it's over 40% of the children in the public schools are single parent households. You may also be surprised to know in a city like New York City, 10%,
Wow.
10% of all the children in public schools in New York are homeless.
Oh,
Mm,
Yeah,
mm.
10%.
lot.
Okay. Now, what does that mean? It means they're either in shelters. Most of them are probably their parent is taking them and they're couch surfing with one relative to the next relative to the next relative, or they're staying in shelters. And the rules are you can only stay so many months in a shelter and then you've got to go to another shelter. The result for that is that the in the children are changing schools so often. And then the curriculums, where's the class they're moving from? Where were they at in in that year's curriculum? And where's the one that they're moving into? So very often there's a gap there, one way or the other, and then so they're losing education in that window. So, but the when that woman came and said that it's the responsibility of all of us to raise our children, and not just the parent. They got tremendous pushback. They got pushback from the parents who were good parents, the parents that were putting the time in with their children and really making a difference. They said, government, keep your hands away from my children. You've got nothing to say about how I raise my children. So they blocked every effort to be able to intervene to help the with the education of the children. Well, what that did is the parents that were not able to provide the education. We have to remember what percentage of families in the United States do not speak English as their home language. And therefore, that child who goes into school who maybe was never exposed to English and now is exposed, they don't have that verbal vocabulary. Where's the catch-up opportunity? And if we look at Africa, you've got here, I don't know how many languages are spoken in Nigeria, but I think Uganda, it's like 25 languages are spoken in
More than,
Uganda.
more than,
Yeah.
more
So
than.
So now you have all these children, again, goes back to where are they getting exposed to even know there's an opportunity? How many children are growing up in a community that has never had clean water in their community? And so this
Mm,
idea of having going in the kitchen and turning on the faucet and getting water is they can't comprehend that because they've never seen anything like that. So the idea here is we have to expose, whether it's the child in the United States who has never
mm,
been exposed to somebody who's speaking the English language way, the way it's spoken in schools, needs to understand it.
mm,
Yes, Sarah.
mm. Like I have a 20-member committee now.
Mhm.
20, sorry.
Yeah.
I have a 20-member committee now. You understand? 20-member committee now.
Uh-huh. Yes, yes.
We are able to impart ourselves in different states of the nation in Nigeria. The Hausa can go to the Hausa land because I cannot do it alone.
Yeah.
You understand? In imparting 10 million children or 10 million people all over Nigeria, I'm creating a committee. You
Mhm.
understand? I have 20-member committee now. And as I'm talking about, 5 is joining again that have the interest, common interest, one common interest to reach out to Africa and Nigeria children to be educated.
Mhm.
And to after education, they can go for skill, they can go for trade and whatever they want to go to for. You understand?
Yeah.
So I am building a committee. We are building a committee. You understand? When we are well taught and when we are convinced, they can go to different parts. Then we combine it together. It's a combined effort. It's not
Mhm.
one person effort.
Yeah. Yeah.
You understand?
Sarah,
Like,
I had a meeting and it's a number of years ago now with
mm,
somebody working at the Nigerian mission to the United Nations. And it
mm,
turns out he was a member of the traditional leadership family of northern Nigeria. Historically, his
yeah.
family was in Niger and into northern Nigeria, and we talked about here possibilities
Mm,
there. He was telling me that he would be able to mobilize 10 million children in that geographic area if we came up with a program.
yes.
It's just that
Yes.
with the COVID came along and it messed everything up. But it
Yes.
just shows the possibilities that are there. But that same 14-year-old boy who came up with some another interesting saying here. He says, if we want something to happen and we want somebody to do something, failing to plan how we would cause that to happen is
Mm,
the definition of wishful thinking. So it starts with us planning. How can we cause the change that we
yes.
want to see to happen?
Yes.
And you
Mm,
know, I used to get so frustrated at the UN when I would go to sessions and people would stand up and say, "Hey, we did this there. If people would just copy what we did, we'd be able to solve all the problems in the world." But nobody's
mm,
copying it. How many times when I traveled around the US visiting all these schools, almost every single school I visited said, "Look, we've got this great program. If everybody would just follow what we're doing, we'd solve the problem." But when we
mm,
look at the statistics over the time, it's
mm,
not happening. People are not following the examples for whatever reason, and there's many reasons. So the
mm,
idea here is we have to cause the change, not
mm,
just go and say, here is the example, follow us. So,
mm.
okay, but let's get down now to some concrete things. We have one issue that we talked about. We have to get young people to be excited to want to learn. Okay, this
Yes.
is the number one challenge. If they're not strivers, they're not excited, they're not wanting to learn. This is
They
very
will not.
often, right?
Yeah.
And it starts off also with the parents. I told this last week about the story, or the week before, of the woman who's now the head of either oncology or endocrinology at one of the largest teachers hospitals here in New Jersey, who's grew up in central India, rural India, And her father forbid that any of his children could get an education because he
So
was
yes.
afraid that the children
Mm,
would leave the family if they got an education because their village had no need for people with higher education. And he didn't
mm,
want to lose his children. Well, it ends up that his wife forced him to allow the children to have an education. And I think it's five or six brothers and sisters there. And they all became very successful and they all left the village. Okay. So this is part of the challenge here. We know in Pakistan and Sishan, you might be able to also say something to that, that a major problem in some of the rural areas of Pakistan is that the parents are saying it's more important that my 6-year-old child work and bring some money into the family than it is for them to go and get book learning type of a situation. So we've got to figure out how we show the opportunities and get people to say,
mm,
I want that. And then we can
mm.
focus on providing the means that if you've got the desire,
Yes.
and now
Mm.
here's the means that will meet you halfway and help you achieve those goals and ambitions that you have.
Sir, sir, if you see the first this thing I sent for you, they were just about 5 children.
Mhm.
You understand?
Yeah.
The other one, there are about 30 children.
Mhm.
You understand? So and more and more and more like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we want to achieve reaching 10 million children,
Yeah.
we have to train others. Why we are here, others are in another state, others are in another. It's like a networking program. That is how we can reach it. If
Yeah.
not, it's not possible.
Yeah.
You
No,
understand?
here,
Okay, you are Igbo, go to Igbo land.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
Hausa, go to Hausa land.
Yeah.
Edo, go to Edo. Yoruba, go to Yoruba. Before you know, in collabo, we are able to
Yeah.
bring the figure of the people we want.
Yeah.
You
One of the
understand?
main things, though, that you're mentioning going to all these tribal areas or these cultural areas there and
Yes.
winning support. But what's very important there is the people that you talk to have to set the goal, not to just seek an incremental. I'm going to improve the number. We're going to go from 100 people we're helping to 1,000 people we're helping.
2,000
That's not
people, a
changing.
thousand like that.
Right. So there's a
Hmm.
young girl here, and I have a video she made talking about leadership. Here, a 16-year-old girl, she made a video for our club. And it was very interesting because she said there's two kinds of leadership. There's a
Hmm.
kind of leadership of leading people. So you might be a team leader. You might be a branch manager in a bank. You've got some team that you're leading, and your skill is people leading. But there's another kind of
Hmm.
leadership called strategic leadership. And strategic leadership is something like a general who's trying to figure out
Yeah.
here how I'm going to get all the logistics, how am I going to get all these different parts of a
All the,
big puzzle
yeah,
to work together.
this is it.
We need to focus on becoming strategic leaders to find paths that can achieve
Hmm.
the result. And that includes figuring out. So I held up last week a poster that's the Dare to Be Great Challenge competition idea to see what group of young people can come up with the outrageously audacious solution idea to major world problems. And the idea there was the suggestion you need to be able to at least impact 10 million people if you're going to get into that kind of category. We did an Interact meeting where I was the Interact chair for our district for a while. And I brought all the Interact clubs, or about 20 clubs, all the people together for a conference. And in the conference, we went and said, we're going to set a goal that all of you are going to say, this is impossible. What can we do here sitting in this conference hall and do it? And so we divided every table. They had to go and say how they're going to solve world hunger. And what was amazing here is that in the first few minutes, they were all just telling each other, hey, this is a waste of time. This is impossible. By the end of roughly 2 hours, we gave them about 2 hours. By the end of the 2 hours, they were discussing real ideas because the difference was they never imagined that they could have ideas that could have a major impact on the world. And all of a sudden, here somebody tosses an idea out, and somebody else adds to that idea, and all of a sudden they're talking about things that could have a major impact. So what we
Mm.
need to do is build a community that is not going to run off and say, I'm going to go get 1,000 children, I'm going to make a difference, but are going to sit there and say, we're going to find a way that we can come up with a program that can mobilize, let's say, 100,000 activists that are going to
Mm.
go out and get those 10
Yes,
million
it's
children.
a collabo. Yes,
Right, collaboration group. So at
yes,
any rate, but let's talk now about because we want to mix in here some concrete things. We started talking last week about an idea called the setting imaginations on fire. This is a an idea that came up with some young people about maybe about 6 years ago. A lot of our ideas actually came from young people, as young as 9 and 10 years old, that came up and we challenged them, try to come up with some great idea. But this setting imaginations on fire, the idea is the problem we mentioned that a lot of children from disadvantaged communities or families, they can't see themselves being successful. They can't envision themselves. So, can we give people excitement and get them like, oh, wow, this is so fantastic. So, the idea that we said there was provide Rotarians with a laptop, a satellite uplink, a projector, a loudspeaker, a microphone, and let them go
yes, sir.
into a community, maybe take some
Mm.
pictures of some of the people in the community, take a picture of the main street, maybe having a drone that might take some aerial pictures of the community, and then going and bringing the community together, especially the young people, and exposing them to Gemini, for example, maybe Nano Banana, and saying, hey,
Yes,
your
sir.
friend over here, what do you think your friend could be when they grow up? And so that shows the picture of their friend, and somebody says, "Oh, he's going to be a doctor," and bang! All of a sudden, where you say, "Oh, you want to see your friend in a doctor's uniform?" Bang, he's in the doctor's uniform. Oh, say, oh, maybe he's going to be an airline pilot. Bang, he's in a uniform of an airline pilot. Oh, he's
Yes.
going to be a race car
Yes.
driver. Now he's sitting in a car here, looking here. And these kids are going to start going and saying, this is magic. This is magic. Look at what I can do. I can come up. And then you can start to say, well, now let's talk a little bit about the future you want. How big a difference would it make if the street was paved in your community? And so you see the drone shot of the main street here in the community, and boom, and all of a sudden it's paved. And then you see in a hut where they cook, and say, what difference would it make if you had a modern kitchen in your hut? So you say, oh, hey, Anna Banana, add a modern kitchen in the hut. Bang, there's a modern kitchen there. Oh, look, open the refrigerator door. Boom, refrigerator door opens. And so they're able to now imagine all kinds of things.
If they,
And then
yes,
the
yes.
one is throwing out a question, the other one's throwing out an idea, the next one's throwing out an idea. And then it verts
Mm.
to the not just the image part, but the discussion. How could we do this? And you're having it's having a discussion in their language with
Yes.
the or language they understand because we're not going to see AI handling 6,000 languages soon, but we can handle
Mm.
the top 100 to 200 languages. So the idea here is that those children are now able to say, "Oh, I have an idea. I have an idea. I'd like to how we could get electricity." Or maybe the AI tells them about the 15-year-old boy in Malawi who lived in a village with no electricity. And he saw a picture of a windmill in a book. And he went home and built a windmill. And he figured out how to create the generator part that would generate some electricity. and he brought electricity to his community. And so these young people are all of a sudden starting to say, how could I do that? And now the AI is discussing with, well, maybe you could do this, maybe you
Of
could do
course,
that. So imagine the impact.
of course.
I asked in that particular case, it was ChatGPT. I said, imagine here what would happen if I went into a village, a remote village, where almost no one has ever even left that village. And they've never seen a paved road of any kind. They've never seen a car of any kind, maybe. And now let's what would happen if those young people were able to have that kind of a discussion with this AI, they were able to see what it would look like, to imagine themselves, see a picture of themselves, and all of a sudden see themselves as that airline pilot, or that seeing themselves as somebody working in a laboratory, or whatever it is that they're envisioning, or seeing themselves building a house, maybe creating the mud bricks and then but building a house, doing things that they never would have imagined that they would be able to do. Never would have even had a comprehension that something like that is doable. So anyway, so that was the first step here, to get people really hungry, and then follow that up with the idea of a mobile unit that would come by and for a half a day in Village A, and then go on for a half a day in Village B. And over the week, it could actually cover 14 villages per unit, let's say, and it might be a motorbike with the suitcase on it, whatever. But the ability to be able to bring here the capability for people in that community who, if they were excited enough and interested enough, would now be able to go and practice some of these things and realize what's doable, and then be able to go and maybe talk about the education. How could we create an education capability? And there is, some of you are familiar with Khan Academy, services about 140 million learners around the world now. And it provides children with the capability of saying, for example, in math, it breaks down math into about 400 to 500 learning units between uh, kindergarten and the end of fourth grade. And you learn one, and if you've mastered it, it lets you go to the next step. And if you master that, you can go to the next step. And if you're having a problem, and you can go into more depth until you've mastered it, and it will guide you through the process. Well, it's very, very successful in being able to help children walk through all the learning units needed to achieve 100% grade level mastery. Now, the thing about it is, there's a thing called Khan Academy Lite. It runs on a Raspberry Pi server, less than $50. And they use SneakerNet, where somebody on a bicycle maybe every week will come by and swap out a thumb drive that will bring in a whole new set of lessons and gather up the lesson results for those students to bring them to a central place, so that you're able to see the progress the students are making and so forth. And it's um, unfortunately, it's not used so much in the rural communities. The place where it's used is South Africa, for example, uses it in prisons. So it enables people in prisons to get an education, but there's no reason it couldn't be used elsewhere. So the thing is, if we can get people to say, I have a goal. My goal is to learn this. My goal is to learn that. And maybe come up with incentives to say, if you get yourself to this point of knowledge, you can get a scholarship that will take you to the next stage. And it doesn't have to be very expensive. We know, for example, our one of our club members in India, she's developed a learning program that will take students that are totally illiterate and help them learn to read in just 45 days. Now, as we said in the beginning, learning to read alone does not solve the problem, because you can pronounce all kinds of words that you don't necessarily understand. You've got to have the exposure to a lot of knowledge so you have a large verbal vocabulary so that when you now learn to read, what you read makes sense because you know what it pertains to. Okay, so one step is here that to get the desire, we can do that with the Setting Imaginations on Fire campaign. The next step here is how do we close the preparation gap? How do we provide that exposure that you don't normally get? Now, if your parents don't, if we're saying, oh, it's the parents' job to make sure you've got the general knowledge, if the parents don't know are too busy or whatever, we've got to figure out other ways. Now, I mentioned the problem that some parents or good parents say, you can't touch the children. It's the parents' responsibility solely. But where the parents are falling down, somebody has to intervene. Now, Germany is known as a country that has high education standards and so forth. My grandchildren live in Germany. And when my grandchildren were in primary school, it was very interesting that a famous actress did a study on the situation there. And they found there's 10,000 children just living in Munich alone that go to school in the morning, don't even have breakfast. And so she provided a program there to provide breakfast in schools in poor neighborhoods. And one of the things that was interesting is that I saw a documentary where they were visiting a school to take pictures about these children that were having breakfast that was served by volunteers in the community there. And they saw some children in the middle of winter, snow in the ground. These children were in their pajamas, barefoot. They had come to school walking without anything on their feet to school, and they were getting fed. And so they asked these children, why are you here? Why aren't you dressed? And they said, because in Germany, you go to school, the sun's not up yet. It's still dark in the middle of winter. And so they said, if we turn the lights on, our parents will beat us. So you can't go and say it's sorry, it's the problem. You got bad parents, tough luck. We can't do that. So we've got to go and help out those parents in a single parent household that's got to work, let's say, and hands their children off to a neighbor for an informal daycare. That neighbor is just watching out that the kids don't hurt themselves for the most part. There's no education program to that. So these children are not, their parents don't read books to them, don't read stories to them, because maybe that parent can't read themselves. We know here in the United States, there's a large number of people, adults, who can't read. I was in contact with an adult education center in Pittsburgh area about 30 something years ago. And what blew my mind was here's a whole group of adults that are attending these night classes to learn to read. And I found out that almost every single one of those adults in that program had a high school diploma. Now, here they are, a whole group of people wanting to learn to read, and they have a high school diploma. How the heck did they ever get that high school diploma without ever learning to read? And that's part of the problem. So those parents, we know they're not reading to their children because they can't. So the idea here is AI gives us a tremendous opportunity to create at very low cost and interactive. If you've used ChatGPT, advanced voice, or Gemini Live, where you discuss, or any of them now, Perplexity has it, Claude has it. Oh, there are just so many tools out there where you can now just discuss, have a discussion with AI. It's so easy to go and make the AI so the AI is reading stories to the children. But the AI also is able to see, so it can serve the role as the nanny. So while the caregiver here, that neighbor who's taking care of some of their neighbor's kids, might be in one room doing something, the AI in the other room can be watching out and warning the caregiver or alerting the caregiver if the children are doing something that's dangerous, or that the AI itself can just speak up and say, Johnny, stop doing that. You're going to fall. You're going to hurt yourself. Okay, so that is very easy for us to program. And on top of that, we can be reading the story. Now, we know we've had Sesame Street for years. It presents stories to children, but it's a one way. So at some point, the children, they're not following that closely. So, but the thing is now we can create it that Sesame Street is actually talking to the children. Ernie on Sesame Street or the other characters there can actually be doing, oh, Johnny, what do you think's going to happen next year to this person here? Or, oh, it's raining outside. What do you think Ernie should do before he goes outside? And so we get that, we can create that same rich exposure to so many aspects of environment here that the wealthy family has. So that that child, by the time they get ready to go to school, has not only got the same fundamental reading and numeracy skills, but they've got that broad verbal vocabulary. And we can do it here. If you're in a community where in a community nobody speaks, we speak their own local language there. But we have to prepare the child for school. So now from a very early age that we can actually expose the child to the language that's going to be spoken in school so that they're proficient in that by the time they hit school. Sid, do you want
I-
to?
Yeah, I had an interesting experience with uh, Gemini. I think it's Gemini on Google, whatever it is. I was speaking with a friend of mine. She lives in England, and she was asking me if the blood pressure causes the headache or headaches causes the blood pressure, hypertension. And I said, let's ask the chat GPT or whatever it is. I don't even know what I had. So we discussed and I asked her, I asked the Gemini, and then she then responded, well, whatever the response was. And that was, I said, there you go. And that was the end of the story. Then we start talking in our own language, in Urdu. And after a while, the Gemini interjected in Urdu, and I thought that was pretty fascinating.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so what you're saying about using with the kids could be it can play a part of a nanny,
Yeah, especially because if we look at Pakistan, one of the problems are an awful lot of children in Pakistan don't grow up understanding Urdu.
right?
Right? So
Correct.
you've got all those local languages there, and so this could help here the children to have mastered Urdu by the time they get to where they could go to school. So we've discussed so far the idea, how do we create the excitement and the desire? Oh, wow, I can do all these crazy things with this AI stuff, and I can make images, and I can change the way my village looks, and I can imagine here, we don't even have running water in anywhere in our community. Imagine what the downtown, the center of my village would look like if it had a big water fountain. And there, so the idea here is, that's why we say setting imagination on fire. That's the idea on that. And then the second idea is to close the exposure gap, the gap here of children who are not exposed to the learning language or not exposed to just all the general things in life that a child of a wealthy family might be exposed to, and therefore they don't have the verbal vocabulary. And when we go to try to teach them to read, they can't keep up simply because they don't have the context to be able to understand. They can pronounce all the words, but they don't understand what they mean or in the intended sense. So then we get to the point where we said the number one goal of education should not be do you I'm going to mix two things here. Do not whether you understand algebra and geometry. It's whether you have learned how to learn. Whether you have learned that whatever you need to learn, you can do, and you have to learn that it's up to you, that you've got to take the initiative. you can't be saying, well, if somebody comes along and tells me, I'll know. So the number one thing is to learn how to learn. Now, Finland, about 20 years ago, they made a lot of changes in their education system, and a significant one they made was that they started free preschool at age 6 months, somewhere between 6 and 9 months old. They started the preschool, and in their preschool, and these one of the things with these had to be highly qualified teachers. You had to have advanced degrees in child psychology and I think nursing, or they had, and oh, and the student teacher ratio was maximum 1 to 4. Only 4 children to a teacher, max, for at least the first couple of years. So the thing about it is that if we look at Pakistan, if we look at Nigeria, you can't afford that. You can't afford to come and say, I'm going to have a teacher with a PhD for every student, and for every 4 students, I'm going to have somebody like that. You're never going to get there. Okay. So, but the thing about it is I can have AI with the knowledge and the skill, and especially the human interaction skill. One of the things here, and mixing something here now again, just the other day, OpenAI introduced ChatGPT 5.2. 5.2 is not an incremental from 5.1 to 5.2, small incremental thing. It's mind-boggling. 5.1, for example, on one of the top exams to say this is what a human can do. The best they were able to do was about 27% or so. That was the best they were able to accomplish. On one of their scales, it jumped up to over 70%. That means that we're now seeing between ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude, they're jumping over each other so fast. They only released 5.1 4 weeks ago, and now we got this massive upgrade to 5.2 just the other day. And so the capabilities to do some of the stuff we're talking about is coming so fast. It's just so fast. And so the cost, though, of being able to provide, if a major entity wanted to go and say, let's make this available, we could do that very inexpensively. There's a new technology, and I'm forgetting, is it Google or was this? I think it was Google, but it could be out of China. And what this does is it it increases the efficiency of AI by about 1,000-fold, 1,000-fold. And what this means is now you're going to be able to have the whole AI on a smartphone and not need to go to the internet at all, not need to go to the cloud, just a local device. And what that potential is, as soon as that is out, I would estimate within a year, maximum 2 years, we're going to see that we could go with low cost smartphones to areas that don't have any connectivity, and have the children have the full advantage of these AI tools. Doesn't have to be a smartphone. It can be a cheap tablet. And I saw that somebody was offering here as part of the Black Friday sales, was offering tablets, smart tablets, but cheap ones for like $40. So imagine here you group 4 kids around one of those things in a school in Nigeria or Pakistan or wherever. What we could accomplish in just a couple of years, we can do that. And we're probably at a stage where it costs more right now, but we could go and initiate a project. Maybe that's a good Rotary project, Ashok. Maybe this is something here we want to get some of the other players involved in, to create a project to create a persona, an AI persona that could be that nanny, story reader to the children, interacting with local children, and start advancing that. So as the capabilities, we're going to have the capability of having interactive avatars available. I'm almost sure within a year. They're there now. It's just that they're very hard to use still. But they're there. HeyGen and Synthesia are both offering interactive avatars right now. And that's going to create the capability here that potentially a young child could be talking with their grandmother, who's the one reading the stories to them, even though their grandmother might not even be alive anymore. But a trusted person could be the avatar that's reading and the story and talking to them here with that interactive mode. Yes, Ashok.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Great segue. I uh, created a digital twin 8 months ago of myself and had it initially programmed in ChatGPT by a colleague down in Australia. And I've been maturing that with content, with context, and as of last week, it was able to create a proposal for a three-tiered university degree program, including Ashok AI leadership development, um, constrained by Mayo system ethics and UN guardrails. Uh, I think the thing that keeps blowing my mind is this capacity to learn any content. It's now able to learn way faster than I am, but it can structure how it gives me logic and delivery in a way that I can manage it in my own cognitive load, besides my usual day job as a doctor.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'm very optimistic that if put in the with the right trusted brokers with smart contracts that are blockchained, you could uh, escal- exponentially develop the curriculum for any type of workforce need. And at at Mayo with this Vibe Summit a few days ago, they were demoing how we can have virtual assistants prep the patient as they come into a room. And I would just imagine what you're just saying with interactivism. Um, People can have culturally appropriate uh, change,
Yeah.
and change is reverse engineered in the way you're talking about. The other point I wanted to mention is the rate at which Digital Economist was saying that teachers are offering growth is 300 questions a day.
Mhm.
I was just blown away that kids can ask 300. I mean, if those areas are unrelated, that's a lot of ADHD. But kids don't have a limit like we do with asking questions. I think the curiosity I have is how do we give them trusted guardians so that they don't learn or have to unlearn bad habits later.
Yeah. And I think here, this idea of the interactive, we can do that with voice now. We can have a static picture, for example, with voice. The avatar part is the latency and the real time lip sync. But again, having four or five children around let's say a monitor on the wall that looks like it's a person talking to them through a glass window interactively is going to probably keep their attention because the that avatar will react. Now, the thing about it is with your digital twin, imagine now that you're able to send your digital twin to a Zoom call, and it'll say the things there that you would have said if you were there yourself. And so you can actually be holding debates in 10 different locations all at the same time on different topics. The It's a little bit mind-boggling where this is potentially taking us. So, but the
Yeah.
I
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I was going to just add one more, and that was
yeah.
the Peace on Earth 2030 gaming model that has teams of three by David Gershon and all. I
Mhm.
think that's a real genius is for the design parts of the engineering to have a team of three as a minimum uh, planning group would be helpful to reinforce somehow.
Yeah, yeah. So, one of the things, a lot of Rotary clubs are very focused on fundraising. And a lot of people have asked, well, what about your club? What do you do for fundraising? And basically, even though we've come up with ideas that literally could raise billions of dollars, we've never envisioned doing that in our club or seeking donations or doing anything along those lines because we say the coin of the realm, if you would, of our club is not money, it's ideas. And so we try to go and figure out how do we pull the ideas together and share. So we're trying a little bit to be a combination of a think tank and an influencer so that we can identify to accomplish the goals that we've set, who are the people of influence in the world out there that we have to get them to join with us to influence the masses. Okay, we've talked about two different things. We talked about how do we set the imaginations, get people desirous to want to learn because they look at what I can do here. Wow. And how do we go and get the exposure so that they've got that basic knowledge to build on for further knowledge? Just a second, Sarah. I'll continue. And then the next thing here is to say, okay, the learning process itself. As I mentioned here, we're seeing the schools like the Alpha School and whatnot going and saying, hey, I can do this with AI. Khan Academy is sort of somewhere in the middle there where it's it's not using AI in that way. It uses traditional videos if you needed. But what the key to Khan Academy is that it broke down all the learning into single steps to learn, okay, how do I do addition with the ability to carry a number or do subtraction single digit and then single digit with borrowing or multi-digit with borrowing and so forth. So each thing is a step, and that's why we get to the 400 or 500 steps, learning steps to get to the fourth grade, the end of fourth grade. And the idea is that the system will not allow you to proceed from one learning step to the next until you can demonstrate mastery of the previous. In other words, we never ask a child to try to learn something they have not mastered all the prerequisites for so that when by the time they're at the end of fourth grade, they're truly at 100% proficiency, not at 90% where we're just dragging along 10% deficiency from grade to grade to grade, or even 30%, which is something here in the US we do because we say, oh, if you had a C or a D, that's good enough. You can go on to the next grade. And then this just compounds all these holes in one's knowledge. So we can go here with Khan Academy and actually at very, very low cost be able to go and make this available to students to go forward step by step and having the AI monitor the progress so we can see if a student is having more than reasonable difficulty with a learning unit. We can go and evaluate, should we intervene? Should we not intervene? And how do we best intervene? Or it can be watching and seeing what students not putting in the effort. and maybe understanding why. So we see a student is they've got abuse at home, poverty, they're hungry, whatever those issues are, we can try to help overcome those issues. But the biggest thing we're trying to do is we're not going there to be a crutch. The teacher should not, or the facilitator should not go in there and say, I'm going to show Johnny how to do long division. They go in there and say, Johnny, have you tried looking here? Have you tried looking there? Because the main thing we're trying to teach Johnny is how to get themselves unstuck so that if they ever get stuck in the future, they know what to do. So with time, the facilitator should have to be spending less and less time with any individual student because that student is then learning to be independent and getting themselves unstuck and how to take the initiative. And that's the goal. If at the end of the session or the end of the process, the student knows what to do and how to do whatever they need to do to continue their learning. And they become less and less and less dependent on the teacher or the facilitator there. Sarah, you had your hand up, and then I'm going to go to Ashok after that. Sarah.
Yes, sir. There is something that just came to my mind, sir. You understand?
Yeah.
First and foremost, last week you promised of sending me some
Oh, yes. That
yes.
from Uganda,
I,
that example. Yes.
I didn't see it. Sir, let me throw something to you, sir. Like you've grabbed this are you hearing what I'm saying? Because I was out of audio. Are
I
you
can hear
hearing me,
you.
sir?
I hear you. I hear you
Okay,
fine.
sir. Sir, you can be the solution. You understand? With some of the idea you have from 1 to 15 or 1 to 10, then how can we buy into this system that can help us to, okay, we have a setup here where we have about 5,000, 6,000 children that is out of school where they can come and learn something. Since we cannot create now the something with AI now, you understand? Do you have any something like that okay, let's see how we can raise a token to get to help the children? You understand?
Yeah,
Is it
yeah.
possible?
Here's what we want to do in the club. We want to create a committee so that we
Okay,
can
sir.
actually push these ideas. We can promote these ideas forward. Uh,
Yes, yes, sir.
yeah, Jerica Whitlock here is normally at the session. She's not here today, but she's been very active looking how we can take, for example, some Rotary districts and create
Mm,
at the district level or a multi-district. In Africa, you have the
mm.
advantage in Rotaract. You've got a multi-district
Yes,
office
yes,
that
yes,
covers
yes.
all of Africa, all or at least all sub-Saharan Africa.
It
And
just dawned on me. It
yeah,
just dawned on me that you can do something to help us. Then maybe we get it in a very low price. We sell it to other states, other governmental parastatal, other schools that is not able to pay their teachers. You understand? And we can be the how will I say it? We can be the person here in Nigeria
yeah.
moving into other parts of Africa country, or even we in Nigeria
Well, we
first.
we
Is there
have
anything that can help us?
In Nigeria, the
Mm,
former permanent representative of Nigeria to the UN, who was also the
mm,
president of the General Assembly 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
mm, mm,
We've talked to him. He's back in Nigeria
mm,
now. So we've got
mm,
several groups there we can pull together and help you guys
mm,
create a local chapter in Nigeria to say, okay, how do you move these forward? If the governments, we
mm.
have to, like I said, you have to plan how you're going to cause it. And so telling the government may not be enough. Because you've got all kinds of
As,
people
a,
with
as an
different motives.
NGO, we can go to our local government, we can go to our
Yeah. And
people,
and we
company
have
around us.
right, and
You
we have from
understand? We can go
UN.
to a company.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And from UNDP, we actually have development centers from the UN in Nigeria as well. So there's a
Mm,
lot of different options. But what we got to do is we got to mature the ideas and actually come up because you can come up with the goal and say let's all do this. But if people don't see a path that they believe
mm.
can lead them to the result, they won't start. They'll
The
just
one star.
yeah. We have to be able to people have to believe there's a way to get to the result for them to act. So this will do.
Mm.
So, Ashok, you wanted to say something here as well.
Yeah,
Yes. The
I,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, just two things. One, I like the linear sequential progressive model that you were describing with Khan Academy, where you have to pass one level before you get to the next level. What we have added to that in the modular approach that we use for training our residents in is just in time and just enough.
Yes.
So, so if you know to bundle whatever the skill and cognitive task requires, to just put that just enough and just in time, maybe 1 or 2 weeks of training as in a boot camp before they go into the ICU or before they go into a new experience. And then if you could have a portfolio manager like these recordings, but the AI could become the matrix development tool that then the person, as they go do their exposures and experiences, they can get somebody to sign off on each of the
Yeah.
things. So if those two, if that template is available for both both portfolio management and then critical skills development, it would be great if Rotary could take on this idea of modules for just in time and just enough. Um,
Yeah.
what I used to become as I was training up to be club president a few years ago was the My Learning section, and so I don't think we have to rebuild it on Rotary side. I think we just have to figure out what are the modules that we need for the specific types of jobs or skills we're trying to promote.
Mhm. Just this is sort of we think of Notebook LM. With Notebook
Yeah, that
LM to
right. What
go.
you showed, right? What you showed with me on me putting the documents in, and then it can generate that roadmap for us.
Yeah,
That is perfect. That's
yeah,
exactly what each of us should practice. Do one example in Notebook LM for our own path,
yeah.
and then maybe share that back with you.
And then, the one of the things here with Notebook LM is the idea that people can come together and say, okay, for ninth grade biology, okay, we're going to take and build the knowledge base of all the knowledge there, and then we're going to focus on having people learn how to learn. In other words, how to use the knowledge base, how to interact with the base of knowledge to gain the knowledge that I want, and even to be able to go and say, hey, make sure I have the essential knowledge that I know enough to even ask about things that I don't know about, because a lot of time people don't know what they don't know. And
Mm.
so we can actually work. There's examples out there with Notebook LM where people have done something to assess my knowledge. That's why they have the quiz functions now, or create the flashcards. And then one of the requests that I'm making is to say, okay, if I took the quiz and I got a couple of things wrong, generate the flashcards for me related to the things that I got wrong so I can go there and to integrate the learning mode so that it will do Socratic questioning of me here. Whenever I ask something, it will come back and ask me some questions that'll lead me to concluding the right solution on my own, so that I'm learning how to learn all the time. So yeah, and the advantage, the great advantage, we don't need a million biology teachers each going out there and creating the knowledge base for biology. We need to have maybe a dozen biology teachers collaborate to build the best possible knowledge base about
Mm.
biology. And once it's
Yep.
there, anybody that needs to know about biology has a reliable source they can go
So yes,
to
yes,
to get all the
mm,
information. Now that's something here that
yes.
could be a tremendous Rotary project or a tremendous
Mm,
Yep,
interactive Rotaract project to
mm,
say, hey, all of you guys, who wants to collaborate on putting together on this subject or that subject, and building a library of
yep,
knowledge bases there to learn about whatever you want to learn. Because once we have that, and once we have the edge computing capability that you do not have to be continually connected to the internet, we've got the potential here that anybody anywhere in the world can learn anything that they need or want to learn.
Hmm.
We'll be shifting from a digital caring economy to a gift economy.
Yeah, but the main thing here is we're teaching people how to be independent, and that's a crucial thing. Joan, yes, welcome,
Sorry, I
Joan.
have to go.
Okay,
Hi
thank you
everyone.
so much, Ashok.
Yeah, haven't been on for a while. Apologies, just too busy, but I've been thinking about you guys. So my point you just actually made, which is to strengthen the parts of the knowledge that people don't have. So it's one thing to build a foundation like math. If you don't have that foundational thinking, then math becomes harder later, right?
Mhm.
But if you have the foundation and you can really I call it sinking it into your brains, then it becomes easier. So you talked about that just before you called on me. So that was the point I was trying to make. Because when I'm taking courses, I sometimes will go and take the test before. Sometimes
Mhm.
they won't allow you to do that, but the ones that do, just to see where it is that I really need to concentrate because I have ADD, right? So sometimes I'm watching and I'm just sort of blankly reading it. But when I know that I have to grasp that particular part of the subject, I really concentrate so that because it's not about, I just want to have it in my head so I understand it, not just know it, understand it. So and I think that's sometimes what people forget. It's just that yes, you can pass a test because you remember you've just taken it, but you don't know it. You don't have it
Exactly.
inside of you.
Yes.
So I think that's
Yeah.
important.
And this is something here Notebook LM is particularly good at is going and saying understanding as a difference from knowing things or knowing some facts. In other words, not what year did a particular event take place in history, but what was the relevance or the importance of that event that took place back then? Why do we care? You know, what did it mean for the world? So at any rate, we talked about here how do we create the interest and the desire to do anything among so many people, young people in the world that have no exposure that will help them become curious about things, that'll help them think, oh, I can do something, I can make a difference. And we talked about the Setting Imaginations on Fire campaign as
Yeah.
a tool for that. Then we talked about the problem that so many people, the number one reason for the education gaps in the world today is people that young people who don't get the exposure to have a large verbal vocabulary that as we move to reading, because we go verbal vocabulary leads to the reading and learning to decode, to read, which goes, so that's education for reading, which we have in the first couple of years of school. And then that switches over to reading for understanding, reading for education. So so we have learning to read going into reading to learn. And that happens around the third grade. So we talked about that, those aspects. Actually, and uh, if we have that broad exposure and we've got the decoding, and we probably should add there after the nanny exposure type of thing, the accelerated learning for all from Sunita Gandhi in India, which is the one that can teach you the decoding and basic numeracy in less than 2 months. And then into something like a Khan Academy. It doesn't have to be Khan Academy, but a mastery built program aimed at promoting independent learning, where you take the initiative in your learning.
So, Bill,
And
can I just say something as
yeah.
well? Um, uh, I like the idea of independent learning because I'm one of those people that does it. But I'm also a very social person. So I think we have to be
Mm.
careful to ensure that people are not just sitting in front of their computers or
Right.
whatever, so I just want to bring that up,
Yeah.
that
Actually, here, if we look at the alpha schools, and by the way, there's another one that's even bigger, the squirrel schools.
oh,
The squirrel schools, actually, I think that's a Chinese, it comes out of China. But I think they work along the same model. But there's two aspects here. One aspect we really forget, and that is with AI and your screen, especially if we have the interactive avatars, you can really teach a lot about social interaction. In other words, you can present people with a scenario. Here's somebody that doesn't want to do something. Okay, you need them to help you do it. How do you convince them? How do you negotiate?
but I wasn't talking so much about the teaching part of it because I think AI can do that, uh,
Mhm.
but the actual social
Yes, right.
interaction.
But you can also, with that, even if it's not actual, you can simulate an awful lot. You can put people into many, many scenarios of live interaction because within another year, maximum 2 years, you're not going to be able to tell when you're talking to a human and when you're talking to an avatar or a robot.
Yeah.
I will show the 12 minutes. We got enough time.
Yeah,
I'll
just let me just say one thing. I think you asked the question about how do you get people to set their imagination on fire so that they do things, right? Um, so we used to run a demonstration garden, and one of the things that the gardens I helped created the network in our region, and one of the things, the major thing that the gardens had, other than teaching people and volunteers was fine, was that there were very few men
Mhm.
that were involved as volunteers. Now, husbands were dragged along. That's a different thing than volunteering, right? And so our garden had mostly men. And this was a curious thing for the hundreds of gardens. They're like, how did you get men there? We want, that's what we want. And I said, well, we never talked about gardening. We talked about building things. And boy, oh boy, they would show up. And they would help build the greenhouse, and they helped build, because men like tasks. Not
Mhm.
all men, I'm not, trying to generalize, but they like tools. And you just leave them, and boy, what else do you need? It was all excitement, and they did it. So we didn't talk about the gardening and the importance of food and the importance of volunteers, which is what everybody else did. We talked about structures and, tools, all kinds of tools and all this kind of stuff. And for the 12 years that we did it, we always had men coming. What do you need? What do you need?
Yeah.
So we cued into their excitement.
Yeah. Now, what could be very interesting, go to ChatGPT and ask and say, we have these gardens, we're doing this. How can we get men involved? And see if they come up with the answer of what you did. And
Yeah,
if
yeah,
not, you can,
that's interesting. Yeah,
yeah, and if not, you can say, well, gee, to what degree might this make a difference? Or
I will
so
do that.
what if ChatGPT is really good if responding to what if type of questions? And also, by the way, Gemini 3 got an upgrade on the deep research just also the same day. I think it was the day before yesterday, actually. That's the same day that ChatGPT announced 5.2. Gemini announced the upgrade to the deep research. So this stuff is just like going, it's expanding so fast.
And I
Um,
just wanted to be honest about that too. We invested money in an old John Deere, like ancient tractor that was 45 years old, and all the men competed to do the the tilling and the
yeah,
paving of the driveways,
yeah,
and
yeah,
so because it seemed like fun, but
yeah,
it's
yeah,
work we needed to get done.
yeah. Well, I'll
So
tell you,
just but
I'm sitting in my new house here,
yeah.
and for the first time, I have a yard that's big enough for a self-driving lawnmower, a
Yeah.
driving tractor lawnmower, and so I'm excited about when am I going to get to try that thing out?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But this is all to say that when we're trying to, because I'm a dreamer and an imaginator, like, so I understand what people need to hear,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
I just want to say that if we want to set people's imagination on fire, we cannot talk about things that demote them
yeah,
or,
yeah. What
so.
you weren't here, Joan, for that first part here. When we're talking, the idea is imagine going to a rural village in South Asia or Africa, and with a laptop, a satellite uplink, a projector, a loudspeaker, and a microphone, and you gather a bunch of children in there, and you take a bunch of pictures of them before when they're coming in, and you take some pictures of their community and some of the buildings in their community, and now all of a sudden here you say, "Oh, hey, Johnny," and Johnny's picture's on the screen. Johnny, what do you want to be when you grow up? And so Johnny says, and they say, "Oh, hey, Nano Banana, show what Johnny's going to look like when he's doing that." And bang, he's seeing himself here being something that he maybe never would have dreamed. Or you might even say, uh, "Johnny, do you like cars? Johnny, can you picture yourself as a race car driver?" And bang, Johnny's up there sitting in a race car. So being an astronaut, uh, helping people, uh, uh, digging a well, so many things. Or Johnny, what would your town look like if the road was paved? And Johnny, you don't have any water. Show us the downtown of your community with a water station. So these pictures are there instantaneously. So people are able to, when we say setting their imaginations, they're now able to imagine things that before had no relevance. They could never have imagined them. Now you can imagine what your life will look like. You can imagine what your community could look like. And that's the first stage to changing your community is being able to imagine what it might look like if you did those. So this is what we're talking about having Rotarians just having these little suitcases with these kits in it, and you just go from village to village and you excite them. And then once you get them excited, then we might be able to start building a follow-up where we have like a little van that's got like 4 or 5 stations in it that will visit for a couple of hours a week to a town and allow the children or anybody in that community for those couple of hours to actually use these tools and learn them more and be able to do crazy things, developing their own websites, because you just say, hey, I'd like to have a website. I'd like to have a website that shows our village off. I'd like to have a website that tells us how to do our gardening here, how we're going to grow better crops, whatever. Anyway, so we talked about here the creating the excitement through the set the imagination on fire. We talked about creating the exposure so that these young people that they all grow up with an equal understanding of the world because they've been exposed to so many things of the world. Then being able to use a program here that by the way, this accelerated learning for all that teaches reading and numeracy, it costs almost nothing, needs no technology, and does not need a highly trained educator to be able to teach reading and numeracy. Then going into a mastery-based program like Khan Academy type of thing to teach young people how to learn to become independent learners. And then the last one here is to challenge the challenge to go further. And this is something like along the lines of the Dare to Be Great Challenge competition, where we challenge teams of young people to see who can come up with the most outrageously audacious solutions to major world problems. And just before COVID, we did a pilot on that, and we had a bunch of schools participate. And the winning team of that was so impressive. These young people coming up with these amazing ideas where they actually reached out. They called university professors, they called top business people, and they interviewed them and they got them to help volunteer to advise them. And they came up with these ideas using AI, solving hunger, solving the recovery of the rare metals out of old electronics, all kinds of crazy things. That so impressed the World Summit of Nobel Peace Prize winners that they invited the winning team to go to their World Summit that was held that year in Mexico, and host a workshop to explain how we can mobilize the masses of the world. So that the to be able to create something where people are encouraged to seek answers to things they don't know how to do, right? To stretch here beyond the known. This gets into Google X. Google X had this concept that to challenge people, you go and find a problem and you set the goal so high that every known idea in the world today cannot achieve the solution because that's what forces people to think outside the box. If you give them a goal that we know nothing that anybody knows today can do it, now we're forcing people to think outside the box. Okay, I
Hmm.
want to hear switch direction just briefly. And I mentioned that we just the day before yesterday, we had ChatGPT 5.2 was brought out, and the leap of what it can accomplish. It is so far superior to what ChatGPT 5.1 was able to do just 1 month ago. It is mind-boggling, but it has flaws. Some of the reviews that I've seen, because it's only 2 days old, and I was looking yesterday, so that was only 1 day old. There were some disappointments on some of the features. It seems that ChatGPT felt under pressure to release this new version, which was called Garlic. I think this ChatGPT Garlic was their internal name for it. But so some of the things don't work 100% as well as people wanted it, but some of the other reports are just blowing people's minds. One of the big things on all of these is it's the whole AI is learning to handle bigger projects. So it's not just doing something where you say, "Oh, can you make an image for me, make a video for me, make a paper report for me, whatever." But now you can give it more complex things. This is moving into robotics as well. And I found from DeepMind a video where it the video where somebody was visiting DeepMind's robot laboratory. And what's interesting on this is to watch and see what are the directions that they're trying to work with in the robotics. And you can imagine here at the speed with which that is evolving, that it is totally possible. Elon Musk has said, based on his robots that he's doing, that he expects within 14 years from now, there will be more humanoid robots walking around on the planet than biological humans. We are probably going to see in a lot of roles these robots being out there a lot earlier. And not maybe they're not going to be humanoid, they're not going to look like humans, but you can see where this is going based on the directions that DeepMind is working on. That's the key thing. So what I'd like to do unless somebody has an objection, I'd like to go and share my screen and show you a video. I should close this. And There it is. Okay. So is everybody okay with that? I'm going to show you a video of a visit to the Deep Labs robotic lab, or Deep Minds robotic lab. Is everybody okay with that? It's 17 minutes long. So we'll sort of do that as giving you a sense of where things are going. We'll then wrap up in 10 minutes and call it a day. But I think you'll find this interesting. So let me try to share this. Okay, here we go. Everybody see my screen now? Can you see my screen? Welcome to Google DeepMind.
Yes, Bill, yes.
Okay, so let's go. Come on.
Mind the podcast with me, your host, Hannah Fry. Now, you might remember that earlier this year, I got to sit down with Carolina Parada, who is the head of robotics at Google DeepMind. And she was talking all about taking Gemini's multimodal reasoning and embedding it into a physical body. And since we were coming to California for this trip to see what Google
Oh, sorry about that. Here, let me.
DeepMinders are doing on this side of the Atlantic, obviously the robotics lab was top of the list. Now you have to remember that these robots aren't these fancy pre-programmed robots that are doing backflips, right? This is something completely different. These robots are open-ended. They are understanding the instructions that you give them and then able to flexibly respond and adapt to an unlimited number of tasks. Now, our tour guide for the day is Kanishka Rao, who is the Director of Robotics at Google DeepMind. I haven't been into a DeepMind robotics lab since, I think, 2021.
Oh, okay.
I mean, already it looks quite different. You haven't got the privacy screens.
Yeah.
They've gone.
They're gone, yeah.
You don't need them anymore?
No, I mean, we have the whole lab here in the open.
Is it that they're more capable of focusing?
Yeah, the models are now trained with like much more robust like visual backbones. So we don't care too much about the lighting or the backgrounds as much. So like the visual generalization part of the problem is much more solved than like 4 years ago.
Big improvements.
Big improvements, yeah.
Okay.
There've been a few big breakthroughs in robotics in the last couple of years, and we're excited to show those today.
Yeah, I mean, it might only be 4 years, but it's basically an ocean of time in terms of what's changed.
Robotics looks very different than it did 4 years ago.
What are the big changes then? I mean, large language models, multimodal models.
Yeah, so basically we want robots to be general, and to be general for human usage, these robots must be able to understand, general purpose, the human concepts. And the big breakthroughs in the last few years have been, we're kind of building robotics on top of these other bigger models, these large vision language models. And turns out they have great understanding of general, world things. So the latest robot models are now built on top of that. So we're seeing like incredible improvements in like how they generalize like new scenes and new visuals and new instructions. So yeah, robotics is way more general than it was a few years ago.
So I was talking to Carolina earlier this year,
Yeah.
and she was sort of saying that it's not even just vision language models to perceive the scene around, but also to plan the actions that it's doing.
Yeah, so basically we develop these things called VLAs, which are vision, language, and action models. So what we did with those is we put actions, which are like physical actions that the robot is doing in the world, and put them on the same footing as the vision and the language tokens. So then now these models can, model these sequences and try to figure out if they're given a new situation, what are the new sequence of actions to do there? So we call this action generalization. And even in this, we've seen, massive improvements in the last few years. So in the previous release, you saw robots doing kind of more short horizon things like pick up things and place them somewhere else, or like unzip a bag. But really to be useful to humans, you want like longer horizon things. And there we have an agent now that can orchestrate some of these smaller moves to make it a much more longer horizon thing. Like you want to pack your luggage for like London, you want to first look up the weather in London. So this agent can then check the weather, decide what you want, and then even like pack your bag for you.
So it's like you've got this kind of fundamental layer, that sort of foundational model, and then you're like building on top and on top and on top and on top until you can chain sequences of actions all together to do a long, complex task.
Yeah, and it makes it way more useful because you don't want that short horizon thing. What you really want for a robot is to do the full thing for you. So this agent really brings that other layer of intelligence to like the whole thing.
And this is 1.5.
Yep. We have, so there's two capabilities in 1.5. We have the agentic component, and then we have the thinking component. And thinking is like a word that's been used a lot. So for robotics purposes here, what we're trying to do is we're making the robot think about the action that it's about to take before it takes it. So it'll output its thoughts, and then it will take the action. And just this act of outputting its thoughts makes it more general and more performant, because we're kind of forcing it to think about what it's going to do before it does it.
Because you see this in language models, right? Like take a deep breath before answering, or the chain of thought, ideas does actually improve the performance, but it's the same in robotics.
It's the same principle that we're applying to robotics and physical actions.
Isn't that weird? Just some of these emergent properties are just so weird.
Yeah, I mean, for robotics, to do like the basic manipulation tasks is really difficult. So we do these tasks very naturally, intuitively, without thinking about it. But for robots, it's hard. So getting it to think about these actions before it does it, it helps. It truly helps the robots.
Amazing. Okay, well, obviously, I want to see. Can we go see one of these ones?
Let's go. So let's take a look at the Aloha robots here. And here, it's going to pack us a lunch with some very dexterous moves. And it'll do like a long horizon task.
Amazing.
And Kaden is going to have one robot.
Thank you.
So this is going to pack a lunchbox, and this is one of our most difficult tasks because it has, it needs to like the millimeter level precision of like grabbing the Ziploc in the correct way.
Yeah.
And then like it'll try to get the bread in that tiny spot. Oh, and it's just all visual servoing.
Oh my gosh, I'm so impressed. I mean, as soon as I said the word impressed, it started flaring slightly. But
that's stage fright, yeah.
And does it correct itself?
It'll keep trying.
Hey, hello, you got lots of cameras pointing at you, I understand.
Yeah, they like
still stress. The first time I went into a DeepMind robotics lab was maybe 2017 or so.
Okay.
And at that point, they had, like the big Lego for like toddlers. All they were trying to do was like stack one on top of the other, stack blocks. And honestly, the pile of discarded broken Lego in the corner was like illustrative of just how difficult. Yeah. But this idea of like millimeter precision for the bag.
Right.
Wow.
Whoa.
Look at that.
Nice. Okay.
No way. I'm so impressed.
Go on, give
it another go.
Yeah. We want to see the bread in the Ziploc. I'll try to do the... Okay.
Oh, that is so almost. Wow.
All right. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Because it crushed too hard on that and you wouldn't be able to close it.
Yep. And
too soft, you're not going to be able to.
More stuff.
I mean, that was easy. The chocolate bar. And now the grapes. Is it going to go on a grape? Oops. Almost certainly that's some grape juice going on there. This is really impressive.
So this is the dexterity in action, just how precise it can get.
Okay, so...
And then it's going to try to close it, I think. Yeah. So this is just learn from the data how to do this. This is just end to end.
So, but exactly end to end, as you say, right?
Yeah.
Like this
is just vision and actions.
And what kind of data is it learning from? I mean, do you have... It's not going to do the
class.
Let's find out.
What kind of data do you give it? So is this based on just allowing the robot to try lots of things, or are you simulating?
So this is actually done via teleoperation. So we kind of embody the robot and do the task with the robot, and it learns through that perspective, and it is going to... So it can pack you some lunches. Yeah.
So you've demonstrated to it, this is what it means to do it correctly.
Yep.
I see.
All right. Thanks. That was so cool.
I sort of want to give you a high five, but your hands are quite pointy.
Yeah, not these ones. Okay, so we saw dexterity here. Let's take a look at another demo where we'll showcase the generalization capabilities of these robots. We talked about how VLMs are general world understanders. So we'll see that on robotics now.
Because that one was a task that it does over and over and over again.
It's more about the dexterity. Here, it's more about the generalization.
Okay.
So Colleen here is going to show us what the robots can do in a more general setting.
So here we have our robot running a general policy, so it can kind of interact with the objects, and you can just speak to it because we have a Gemini layer on top. Amazing. So, for example, hey, can you put the blue block into the blue tray?
I am putting the blue block into the blue tray.
Oh, it's chatting while it does it.
Yeah, so if you want to just ask it to do something, it's a push to hold mic.
Yeah. Can you put the green block in the orange tray, but do it as Batman would?
Nice.
I cannot perform actions as a specific character. However, I can put the green block in the orange tray for you.
Fine.
I am now moving the green block into the orange tray.
Okay, that's cool. So if this is completely generalizable, okay, so I have a stress ball.
Okay.
that I travel with. And it's never seen this before.
Yeah, it's never
Okay,
seen that
so if I
before.
put that in the scene,
Okay.
and that's a pot, right?
Right, this is a little container and it lifts open.
Okay, let's try this. Open the lid of the green pear.
I'm getting started on opening the lid of the green pear.
It's difficult, right?
Yeah.
More.
All right.
Amazing. Place the pink blob inside the green pear.
I'm working on placing the pink block inside the green pear.
Red side of the difficult.
Oh, nice.
What? Oh, I want it to succeed so much. Oh, squishy.
Yeah. Okay.
Put the green pear lid back on the pot. Yes. Yes. Oh,
Nice.
so impressed. You know what? You look like a proud parent.
No, I really feel that way sometimes.
It's amazing. Never done that before.
Yeah, that pink stress ball's never seen before.
Yeah, the open-endedness of this is really extraordinary.
Yeah. So now we can chain together some of these short tasks into a long horizon task. And it could be way more useful because as you saw, with short horizon tasks, you can only do parts of it. But once you can string them along to do something more impressive and long term, then we get like more useful tasks.
So instead of like instruction, you can just tell it to do something.
You can ask for some high level thing, and then a orchestrator will break that down into smaller instructions for the VLA, and it will do the whole thing for you end to end. And we can see that now here.
Okay. I'm in San Francisco and I don't know the rules about sorting trash. Can you look it up for me and then tidy up?
In San Francisco, you're required to separate your waste into 3 categories: recyclables, compostables, and trash, each with its own color-coded bin.
Nice. Oh no. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Wow.
Now I will put the rubbish into the black bin.
Nice.
So it's chaining the...
Yeah, you can see how the agent can orchestrate a few more tasks and make it way more useful.
So in terms of the architecture of that then, how does it work? I mean, do you have like sort of a separate system sitting on top that's giving instructions?
Yeah, we have 2 systems. One kind of our ER model, which is better at reasoning, and that orchestrates the other model, which is our VLA, which does the physical actions. So both of these come together to do these long horizon tasks.
Okay, so the VLA being the vision language action model,
Correct.
and then the ER model being the...
VLM, just a vision language model that's designed to, be better at these kinds of tasks.
It's doing the reasoning.
Exactly.
I think if we're going for full science fiction future though, you don't want just arms.
You want the full humanoid.
You want the full humanoid.
Let's go check out the humanoid lab.
Okay, yes, please.
All right. So here we have a robot that will sort laundry for us. It'll put the dark clothes in the dark bin and the white clothes in the white bin. This is Stephanie and Michael who's going to run the demo. And the cool thing is you'll just read the thoughts of the robot as it's doing it, and you'll see, what it's thinking. And this is our, thinking and acting model where it'll first think and then take the action.
You get an insight into its brain.
Yeah, so you can look at what it's thinking now.
So this is every time, Steph, is it?
Yep.
I got you.
You want to throw in a few more clothes?
Absolutely.
Go for it.
Let's do it. Let's get a red one in there.
Let's get a red one in there.
You've not put that in the white one. Thank you. So do you have a system sitting on top of it that's kind of making these decisions? I mean, how does it work? Is it like hierarchical?
This one is pure end to end.
Right.
It's thinking and acting in the same model. There's no hierarchy. So it's like very closed loop. So okay.
Red. The bottom closed from the table. Red cloth.
The black box. Beautiful. Nice.
Beautiful. I mean, I would probably wash that separately.
Yeah.
You do, you have. We have purple top in no time. Okay, so then if this is end to end, how do you extract this information out? Is it just outputting actions?
So the beauty of this is it's outputting both its thinking and its actions. So think about how Gemini outputs its thinking before it outputs the response to the user. This is doing kind of something similar.
Got you.
No, it's actually truly exciting. Like
Really?
it's a different way of doing robotics that I feel like is very exciting to us. Yeah.
All right, so here we have the robot. Let me showcase his generalization capabilities, and this is Kirtana, one of the researchers working on it. So let's just see what he can pick up and maybe you can pick something and put it in one of these things.
I'd like the plant in the basket.
Also, all these objects are not seen by the robot during
Okay.
training.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so they are completely new. Many of them we shop like yesterday.
Oh, really?
yeah, that's true. We went to Target and we bought a bunch of things yesterday.
So this is about how the robot can handle completely new objects.
Things it's never seen before. Here we go. Do it. Oh, that is quite tricky to pick up, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like kind of sliding away. Oh, okay,
Just not
got
go
it.
up there.
Nice, cool.
Go the scruff of its neck.
Nice, yeah.
Darling, you
Yeah.
did it.
What next?
Okay, I'd like the Doritos in the hexagon.
And you can move it as it's trying to do it, and you can see
Trick it.
Yeah, trick it.
Okay.
Oh.
I hope you weren't planning to eat those.
That's amazing. Thing is, okay, it's still a bit slow. It doesn't get it right 100% of the time, but you can see that it's like it's on the right path, right? I think that's what feels very different to last time I came to one of these labs.
Yeah, you can see the intention behind the actions, and it's generally trying to do the things that you're asking it for.
Do you feel as though the stuff that you're doing now isn't going to be thrown away and scrapped for a whole new technique, or do you feel like you're building the sort of foundational blocks?
So yeah, I think these are the foundational blocks that will lead to the final picture of general purpose robotics. So we just have to build on top of this.
In that building on top, do you think it needs another revolution? Like, do we need another architecture, or do you think that we've got enough already?
No, I think we need at least one more big breakthrough.
Yeah.
Like even now, these robots, they take a lot of data to learn these tasks. So we need a breakthrough where they can learn more efficiently with data.
So do you think that's the only limiting factor then? Do you think if you had a similar order of magnitude, many, many more orders of magnitude of data like you do with large language models or visual language models, do you think that this would be sorted?
There is one hypothesis that that's all you need.
Right.
If you can like that much robot data, then we're done. We can pack it up. But there's still a long tail of problems to solve. Like they have to be safe. They have to like really master the task. So there are still like challenges, but the core of the problem is still like the robot data, this physical interaction data, like what it feels like to do all of this stuff, it's just limited. Like it's not as big as the internet.
So right now we still have to collect all this experience on robots, but there is a lot of manipulation data that is collected by humans, humans posting videos about how to do anything. We should be able to learn from that at some point and really increase how capable robots are. This is very unstructured. Like solving robotics, general manipulation is a very unstructured problem.
Yeah, and completely open-ended in terms of the type of things you could potentially ask it to do. Amazing. I'm so impressed. Well done. Sometimes these robots are a little bit on the slow side, right? Sometimes they're a bit clunky, but you have to remember that this idea of having a robot that can understand semantics, that can get a contextual view of the scene in front of it, that can reason through complex tasks, it's just completely inconceivable just a few years ago. And okay, then there may still be some way to go, but the progress here is really limited by the amount of data that we have on physical interactions in the real world. But solve that, go through that barrier, and I don't think you're just going to be watching robots sort laundry. I think we could be on the cusp of a genuine robot revolution. You have been watching and listening to Google DeepMind, the podcast. If you enjoy this little taste of the future, then please do subscribe on YouTube so you won't miss an episode. See you next time.
Okay, so what do you think of that?
Welcome back to Google DeepMind, the podcast with me, your host, Hannah Fry. Now, the dream.
Okay, that next one is also interesting about the new changes to Waymo, the self-driving taxis. It's and crazy. It's really amazing. There was a story on the news the other night about a woman that was pregnant that got into a Waymo self-driving taxi, and she actually gave birth while in the taxi. And the self-driving taxi went and drove her to the hospital. All of this stuff. Now, the thing about it is with the idea that we've gone from 5.0 ChatGPT 5.0 to 5.1 to now 5.2, and we've gone from about 17% capability on a major test to over 70% in a little over a couple of months. We have to imagine where are we going to be next year. There are already out there speculative YouTubes on Gemini 4.0. We just got 3.0, and they're already talking about 4.0. There's talks out there about what ChatGPT 6.0 might and bring. We just had a case of one of the major executives from OpenAI on the ChatGPT team just quit because he says that he's afraid that the AI is going to eliminate huge numbers of jobs very quickly. And we've seen here the problem, and I've had a lot of research with AI on what's the problem? How come we're not talking about uh, what happens if the jobs get deleted, if we don't have the jobs for humans? As we said in the beginning, that we've got a lot of the major players from the World Economic Forum to the International Monetary Fund, and everybody is saying, no, don't worry about it. We'll just upskill, we'll reskill. Well, if AI is good enough to be able to replace all the workers and all the existing jobs, what makes us think it's not going to replace us in the new jobs? In fact, it's going to replace us so fast, we're never even going to get a chance to try out for the new jobs. Because we have to remember, if we've got here 100 million people that are displaced by AI, you have to now train 100 million people on whatever they're going to do next. But AI, we train one somewhere. Any one of tens of thousands, we train one. And every AI automatically knows how to do whatever that solution is. So the whole idea that our whole concept of time doesn't apply to the technology. So it's super important that one of the things that we've got to focus on from our club perspective here when we look at AI, we can look at all the AI, how we can use it for education, how we can use it for medical research. What they accomplished with AlphaFold, the genetic or protein folding in DeepMind, the implications of that for medical, it's mind-boggling. I was just watching what does that mean for us, and that's something that's I should do a notebook LM and pull together all the knowledge on protein folding and what does that mean for biology and for medical research, because it's just getting so mind-boggling. I just want to see, because a couple of you may not have seen, I'll try to, wait, what's that? Hmm. Okay, I'm in Gemini here. Uh, no, that's not gonna do it. Hmm. Okay, I'm in ChatGPT, or I got to stop that share and start a new one. There we go. Notebook LM. Okay. Can you guys see Notebook LM on my screen? Can you see Notebook LM on my screen?
Yes, Bill, can.
Okay, so let's see. Global youth diplomacy. Uh, okay, I'll do this one here. This is something where I did a deep research into the Italian Diplomatic Academy, who I represent at the UN, and uh, oops, okay, no, take that one back. That's not the one I was looking for. Um, Now let's see what this one looks like. Oh, okay. Here we go. So this shows us some examples here. This one I did a deep research, and you can see it brought up all kinds of things on this whole concept of this is based on the future we want model UNs. And we have here, we talked about the ability to create infographics, slide decks. We have all kinds of audio overviews now we can do on a deep dive, a brief, a critique of the subject matter, a debate, and we can do all these custom types of reports. We can control the length, we can control the language on terms of reports. We can now do briefing docs, study guides, blog posts, but depending on what the subject matter is, it'll suggest other reports that we might want a strategic plan. It's an analysis of an organization's governance, partnership proposals, introductory narrative, conference handbook, your guide to participate in a future we want UN conference, model UN conference. Um, the quizzes to be able to create quizzes, flashcards, and you can focus them on only specific things. I can say how many questions, what level of difficulty, but I can come in here and I can really say, okay, I want you to only focus on the position papers for the conference, or I only want you to focus on your presentation, on creating a presentation, whatever it is, and it will focus on that. And you can do that on all these fields. You can go into the slide deck and say, I want a slide deck that's only going to cover certain areas on that. Now, and I can create the flashcards and do the same type of things. Now, just to give you a sense here of an infographic. So this is the example that it does with one mouse click. It'll create an infographic like this about the future we want, world's largest youth diplomacy initiative, how many youth we've engaged. It's the world's largest MUN program, what the Secretary General is saying, some of the key locations that we're working. It's more than a simulation, all these different aspects of it on just one mouse click. And I could have put in the custom instructions. I want you to only focus on all the different countries that these 32,000 young people have come from, and so forth. Now, then the slide deck here, this got created, one mouse click, one mouse click. I'm blown away. I'm blown away by what this generated with one mouse click. Joan, we have to try here on your whole Victory Gardens program to see what it would generate here for you if we load up a number of things. Ashok was mentioning earlier, he had sent me about a dozen different articles and links about a particular topic area, and we created a slide like this. It's just mind-boggling. Here, the anatomy, how the conferences are run, the preparation, and so forth. So that is there. And what I was able to do with this is, let me just see if I can go here.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
Okay, so last item. Okay, this can you see here? It says the future's calling. Can you see that? Okay, so let me begin it. It's I took that slideshow that I created, and then I fed it back into Notebook LM and said, make me have the presenters present the slideshow. In other words, narrate it.
Focus today is very sharply defined. We are taking you on a thorough exploration of the future we want Model United Nations, our FWWMUN ecosystem.
Right.
This isn't just about understanding another conference, it's about analyzing the robust institutional framework we built to empower the next generation of global leaders.
Think of this more like a strategic briefing. We really want to show you the structural integrity, the strategic partnerships, and the sheer operational scale that lets our initiative go so far beyond a standard academic simulation.
And deliver real diplomatic impact.
Exactly.
We've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's unpack this. We should start exactly where our mission begins, the core mandate that really necessitated this whole global response.
Absolutely. The foundation of everything we do is that sense of urgency defined by the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. He stated very clearly that the world needs youth engagement and innovative ideas now more than ever.
And we are operating in a very specific, high-stakes global environment. So what's critical for you to understand is the backdrop to our work. We aren't responding to, abstract problems.
Not at all. We're responding to specific, immediate threats that Guterres himself highlighted.
Such as?
Well, you have raging conflicts and rising tensions, which are destabilizing entire regions. Then there's the existential threat of the climate catastrophe. We're seeing record humanitarian needs, a constant assault on human rights. And this is a big one.
Misinformation.
Pervasive misinformation and disinformation. It just fundamentally undermines the ability of nations to cooperate and solve anything. That level of urgency is the crucible where this was all forged.
So that brings us right to our organizational response. I mean, if that's the urgency we're facing, the question has to be, what is the institutional response capable of handling a problem of that magnitude?
Our answer is FWWMUN. It's the global initiative directly answering that UN call for youth action. Our mandate is deeply inspired by the landmark 2012 Rio Plus 20 resolution, famously titled The Future We Want.
And that's not just a name.
No, it's our philosophical and operational North Star.
And central to that
I'm not going to play this whole thing, just another screen, a couple of screens.
To the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs.
Right. We knew that trying to tackle all 17 at once risked dilution of our efforts.
So instead,
we strategically identified 10 of those SDGs as our key focus areas, the ones most relevant to young leaders and the ones that really benefit from the educational and diplomatic engagement we provide.
And the real insight here, I think, is our commitment to move explicitly beyond simulation.
Yes. The standard model UN often teaches procedure, but our commitment is to empower youth to draft robust, impactful resolutions on these pressing global issues.
So we're cultivating tangible solutions.
We're cultivating innovative, tangible solutions designed to be presented to actual world leaders and the relevant UN agencies.
The moment you start talking about submitting resolutions to world leaders, though, you introduce huge logistical and diplomatic challenges. This level of ambition just demands an unparalleled scale. So let's look at the data. This is what demonstrates our global impact. We're able to claim that we're the world's largest and most diverse model UN program, and we quantify that with 4 key metrics of our reach.
And these numbers, they really validate the need for our structure. Since 2018, we've engaged over 32,000 youth and subject matter experts.
32,000.
And that has a profound ripple effect. We track over 2.8 million individuals who've been impacted by the programs and resolutions generated.
And the diversity is, it's just non-negotiable for us.
Consistently, we see delegates representing 140 or more countries in our conferences. Achieving that level of geographic representation means coordinating diplomatic protocol across a vast network. This is all built across more than 38 international conferences we've organized globally in just the past few years. It's an enormous logistical footprint.
So when you look at those numbers, 32,000 delegates, 140 countries, you realize the institutional architecture supporting all this can't just be a standard, loose nonprofit.
No, it has to be robust.
It has to be robust. And so our success is built on what we call the architecture, a dual engine.
And that dual engine is this unique and powerful combination of two complementary entities that ensure.
Okay, so as I said, that was generated. Oh, actually, I should have not. Hold on. Not there. I'm going to take you here. Okay. I've got to get out of. Oh, okay. I'm probably going to have to. Okay, I'm going to have to stop share just to end that piece here. No. Okay, here's where I created that slideshow. You can see the slideshow over here that I created. Okay, that's the slideshow. And then coming back over here, I went and I loaded the slideshow back in. This is the slideshow here. It comes out as a PDF. And then I went and created here the audio, and then I just combined the audio, overlaid the audio on top of the video. And there's just timed the switching of the slides and had it recorded. So you can just see that what you can do with this stuff is pretty amazing. Okay, so that gives us, I mean, what we can do with that, this Notebook LM is just becoming amazing. But Gemini in general, of the things that it's coming, interactive images are coming so that you'll be able to click on aspects of an image and it will bring up the detailed explanations of the different aspects of the image that are there. One of some of the things that that I've asked for that are a little bit complicated to create is I want to be able to just talk to the body of knowledge. We create the body of knowledge. We can add as many sources, 50 sources you can add in the free version. Those can be each individual textbook. So you can put 50 textbooks in there on a subject matter. It'll synthesize and summarize all that knowledge. Now you can just talk to that. You can literally create the situation where you've got let's say the authors behind those 50 books are the best knowledgeable people in that subject in the world. You're now able to be in a discussion with the group of the top experts in the world. It's pretty mind-boggling. Okay, but we now have exceeded our window of time. Last comments, anybody? Yes, Sarah, you're muted though. Yeah, you're muted, Sarah. Okay. Sarah's working good. So what we've covered here, we covered education, we covered here the how fast this technology is moving, and we covered some on education, some things that we've got to do if we're going to really make the difference. Okay, Sarah, you're unmuted now. No, but you unmuted. Somehow your microphone is off or something.
Or her volume, maybe.
No, she had earphones in. So,
Oh.
and you're probably connected on Bluetooth. Okay, so she's got to get herself. connected on that. One of the things we talked about here is just the scale. I just want to mention one thing on the scale, and that is, let's say here we decided we want to.
Hello, sir.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes, go ahead, Sarah. We can hear you now, Sarah. We could for a minute.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, we can hear you again now. Now, I guess you've got to keep holding your finger on whatever it was. There's something. You might have to hit the space bar, hold down the space bar while you're talking. No, no. Okay, so something. So I just want to talk about the scale because we talked about saying, hey, we got to be able to reach a million, 100 million people to make a significant difference. And when I usually give the closing, one of the closing speeches on a lot of our Model UN conferences, and I issue a challenge to young people, asking them, how many of you think you could raise $1 million for a cause in the next 12 months, let's say? And usually a couple of people will say yes. And my response is, well, I guess the goal's not high enough then. So let's raise it here. How many of you think you could raise $1 billion in the next 12 months? And I don't get too many takers on that. So I then just point out, imagine here, if we could get the Secretary General, for example, to make an appeal to the world to describe, hey, do you realize 2 out of every 3 10-year-olds in the world can't read effectively? So we want to do something to improve that. So I'm calling on every school in the world to demonstrate their resolve to overcome the education losses due to COVID by participating, having all your students participate in the world's largest ever readathon. The goal is to get every student in the world to read 40 minutes a day for 1 month that we will call Read for a Better World Month. And in that 1 month, 40 minutes a day would give us 20 hours per student. So if we could get just half the students in the world to participate and read 20 hours in that month, that would be 10 billion hours read. Now, with our partners, Rotary, going and asking all of the business and small businesses and individuals in their community to incentivize their own children, the children of their local community, to read. I'm asking them to each get pledges, a small donation, could be just pennies, a small donation for every hour read by a student in their local community. If we can average across the world just 20 cents per hour read and read 10 billion hours, that is $2 billion raised. So the Secretary General calling on every student and school to participate and encouraging all the ministers of education of all the countries to echo that call and call on all the students in their respective, all the schools in their respective countries to participate. Then the odds are that a lot of the schools will participate. In fact, one country with literally more than 40 million students, when we presented that idea to the Minister of Education, his comment at the time is, yeah, you can expect 40 million people from my country to participate because I'll just mandate everybody has to do it. So that's 40 million in one whack. So it wouldn't take that many countries to say, I'm going to have all my students participate to reach half of the schools in the world. So this is this is an example of how we can scale. We can come up with ideas, just like that Dare to Be Great challenge competition. We have an idea that we believe that we might be able to go and offer $1 million in prizes in that competition. Now, how many, not a prize of $1 million, but $1 million in prizes at the various level. The idea is that at the very bottom level, 8 schools would compete, and then the winner of those 8 schools would go on to compete at, let's say, the regional level, and then the winner of the regional level would go on to the state level and so forth. If we had just 6 levels of competition, we're already into the tens, many tens of thousands of schools participating. Now, how likely is it that if schools are hearing about, oh, there's a competition we can participate in, and there's $1 million in prizes out there, and the winners get to go and present at the United Nations in New York, and the winners for the country got to go and speak to the parliament, and so forth. What is the likelihood that a lot of schools are going to say, hey, we want to participate in that, or at least some of the students in a school? And to sweeten it, what if we go and say, hey, a local Rotary Club will sponsor the registration? Because we might go and say, oh, there's a $50 registration fee per school to participate. But if a local Rotary Club shows up and says, hey, if your school has a team that wants to participate, we will sponsor your school by paying the registration fee for you. And it's online, so there's no cost other than the cost of spending some time and ideas. So those are some examples of things that we believe we can do that could have really, really major impact and reach a lot of people. And if we invite the judges to add to the judges on the competition, to say we're going to put it on the internet so that on each of the local competitions, the local community is invited to vote as well. So we have here 8 communities competing. All the people, the kids are all going to be contacting all their friends and relatives and say, you got to watch, you got to vote for us. And we get a lot of people. What are they listening to? They're listening to how we can solve major world problems. They're listening to what the major problems are. They're becoming educated as to that, and they're getting to be surprised at the things their kids can do. And if we do that at each level, by the time you get up to a national level, we can imagine here, or even a state level in Nigeria, a place like Nigeria, just imagine here the amount of people that are now watching the discussion. On that readathon that I talked about, getting 500 million young people reading 40 minutes a day for a month, getting, maybe 20, 30 cents per hour read. In a pilot that we did in the US, we were able to get about $5. But we realized countries like Malawi or DR Congo or Nepal probably only be a couple of pennies. But the idea here is we keep it in the news, not just for 1 month. It's not just an announcement, oh, this readathon's out there, but we can generate very interesting news stories almost every day for that month about the Minister of Education doing this, this school using this unique approach. And then in the month following the readathon, we create another news event by encouraging every Rotary and Lions Club around the world, that's about 100,000 clubs, in all the communities they represent, organize a community ceremony to honor the readers, the students who participated in the readathon as global citizen heroes. And perhaps to get a T-shirt, or I'm a global citizen hero, or a wristband, or whatever, something that symbolizes that. The idea is to create such pride because the monies that are raised, those donations, those pledges of only a couple of pennies that add up to a couple of $1 billion, that is enough for us to reduce the number of children in the world not in school due to hunger or poverty by between 10 and 20 million in just a few months. In just a few months. Never been done in history. And that would be the biggest organized human endeavor in the history of mankind. Never in the whole history of mankind has anything close to even 100 million people been engaged over a longer time frame of several weeks. So this would be a huge, huge win for the UN. It would be a huge win for Rotary because every news channel in the world would be talking about this great accomplishment. We would be able to reduce illiteracy probably to the lowest level since before the United Nations was even founded. This is the kind of ideas, and it's not my idea. I have to say, this idea came from a group of 9 and 10-year-olds who we challenged to come up with a dare to be great idea. And that was their idea to organize a readathon. They did a pilot. They organized 70 classmates from ages 5 to 10, and they raised enough money to take 250 kids off the streets in Malawi, Africa, get them into school and feed them there for a whole year. 70 young students. Their idea so dramatically changed the lives of 250 of the world's poorest children. This is the kind of great ideas that we can promote and support. Okay, enough of that.
I think it would be fantastic to do it.
Yes.
So
And what does it take? It takes the Secretary
organizing.
General calling for things. It takes Rotary saying, "Hey, Rotary clubs, this is your opportunity to do something great in your community." It involves working with UNESCO, with their 150 countries that are participating, where the ministries of education are already
UNICEF even.
participating.
Yeah. So you would have to have, so to operationalize it, you would have to have all the documentation and documents ready
We
to,
have here a whole packet because we were putting this together. We actually wanted to do it for the 75th anniversary of the UN back in 2020.
right.
And so we were preparing. We have minute by minute explanations well, for both of those because we had the Dare to Be Great competition plus we had the readathon. But for each one, we have info packets, sample templates, communication templates to go to ministers of education, to go to schools, invoking the International Federation of Teachers Associations to become a co-sponsor around the world, reaching out to imagine here if you got the Gates Foundation to lead a group of associations that would say, hey, you know what? Um, uh, we will pledge uh, 5 cents per hour read anywhere in the world on this initiative, up to a total of $500 million, let's say, which they spend now. They just don't get anything for it. And the beauty of a readathon is they don't have to pay until after the students have delivered the result. Which, when we think, we had just Mark Zuckerberg uh, went and he gave $100 million to the school district in Newark, New Jersey, in one city, $100 million. But he just gave it to them and said, use it wisely. And we haven't seen any result out of all that. Whereas he could go and say, I will hold up $100 million. If you students achieve this result, I will pay the $100 million. That's the opportunity we're offering. So that's something here we should. I'm going to try here and for one of the next two meetings to put all of these into the shared. We have shared folders that have documentation on about 10 projects like these. And I will share that. I think, Joan, didn't I share with you the one of the folders?
You were going to, but I
Oh,
didn't get it. Yeah.
okay, it could be. The last couple of weeks, I have to apologize, have been a
Me
mess
too.
because
Yeah.
I've been traveling here. I drove the day before yesterday. I drove for 13 hours, moving stuff from New Jersey down to North Carolina here. And we know 2 weeks ago, the outlets just stopped working in my new house, so I didn't have any power, and so that killed that session. So, but slowly, we're getting a little organized here, just so you can sort of see
Oh,
this.
yeah.
Uh, here, but hey, we're getting there. So at any rate, though, I thank all of you for today for sticking with us. And hopefully you found the session good. As I mentioned to you, let me see if I can just get that post. Where are we? I'm trying to see. Okay. Oh my. I'm just getting the link to the Dare to Be Great the Dare to Be Great channel. So let me see if I can. I hope this would work. Okay, I'm just adding to the chat. That should be the link that takes you to the Dare to Be Great challenge. As I said, I've posted all the videos there. The only one that won't be there right now is today. And so I'll try to get that in within by tomorrow night. I do have to process these because of the length and to get it into the channel, but hopefully by tomorrow. So otherwise, any of you, if you send me, if there's anything particular you would like covered in these meetings, please just send me a link on WhatsApp and tell me a little bit about what you would like to see. Okay. With that, I say ding. I hereby declare this meeting of 13 December 2025 to be closed. Oh, Sarah, are you trying to say something or just waving goodbye?
I'm waving bye-bye.
Oh,
Bye-bye.
okay.
God
Bye-bye.
bless you, ma. How are you, ma?
Okay. Thank you all. Bye
Bye-bye.
now.
Sir.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.